Welcome to the Hawks Nest live stream show. My name is Brandon Kane, and I do thank you for tuning on in today. It is Rivalry, folks. Rivalry week. The battle of the nemesis. We've got to go take down a team that's had our number here over the last few years since Shanahan's arrived. I know you guys are hyped up to the moon for this game. Everybody's ready for it to already happen right now. In fact, we're glad it's on Saturday, so we don't have to wait till Sunday. But we got some work to do here in the lead up still left, and that's partly here today, the Seahawks Weekly Roundup. This is, of course, a show dedicated to do a little bit of a look at the prior week and maybe some of the little bit of the stories that might have slipped between the cracks, take a little bit of a closer look at the team in certain parts and places that might not be as much concentrating upon, and a little bit of a look forward at the very same time. So I hope you guys are ready this week. We're going to have some extra shows along the way. We got the Behind Enemy Lines tonight. Or 3 o'clock today, Pacific Standard Time with Jesse. And we're going to be doing a couple of shows cooked up again tomorrow as well. Got a special show for you guys at 12 o'clock tomorrow on how we're going to be able to potentially take down this San Francisco offense. We're going to be taking a look at footage and film and a little bit of what we did that first matchup, a little bit of what Mike McDonald has done when it comes to Shanahan over the 4 times that he's played him over these last couple of years as far as how he's kind of tactically approached things. But that's a show for tomorrow. Today is all about the weekly roundup and I can't say it, but that's what it is. If you guys can for me today, please do hit that like button, as it does help this channel grow and show. Gets me out there on the old algorithm. And let's start out with the first point, which is right off the rip here, which is I want to talk a little bit about the scoring. The Seattle Seahawks this past Sunday set a mark that I think is one that not enough people are paying attention to. And that mark is that they are scoring more points per game than any Seahawks offense in their history. More than the Let Russ Cook 2020 year, where you were scoring nonstop at the start of that season, and even at the end of the year, had a couple of big games to really push that mark up. The 2005 season with that great offense, 2 Hall of Famers on the offensive line. Shaun Alexander, almost another Hall of Famer right on that line. Not going to probably get over, but we're very close to being. Matt Hasselbeck, some good receivers on the outside, good tight end. Yet this team's got that team beat by over 2 points a game at 29.5 points a game. And I can see this. I'm on the NFC West roundtable last night, and I can feel this a little bit at times when we kind of get lost on things, and it's like the dog with a bone, and you just keep chewing on that bone. And the Sam Darnold, the offense not being consistent enough, these are valid concerns, and valid concerns that these are things that could very well be things that upend us when it comes playoff time if they are too big of an issue and too big of a problem. But I think that what happens here is that because, as I've referenced here recently, and just kind of, it's like a light bulb's gone on above my head in this way, and that the feast or famine thing to this team, and especially to the offense, is very true, but it is the both sides of the scale. It's not just that you're in famine mode and then you get a couple of blips of offensive life. It's that when it is in feast mode, it's going hot. It's cooking up. You're getting enough points to go and win a football game. And you did this at the start of the schedule, when it was hot starts and people were a little bit less worried about this, right? They were less worried about the famine aspect because you had the feast at the front, you got the lead comfortably, you just kind of leaned on the lead. And so people kind of ignored early on the fact that this was the sort of same situation we were seeing with the offense as far as that role. This isn't a kind of a shocker thing there. It's just now what's happened is instead of it being on the back half where you already have put up the points, where you've already got the lead, now it's happening on the front end of some of these games. And so it's the strong finish. But I would just attest to saying this. Would we like to have a consistent? Sure. Would you like to have a offense that scores all 4 quarters of a football game? You better believe it. But that's going to be hard to see happen. That's going to be hard to see happen in the playoffs. And if it can't be that, can you be explosive? Can you put points up in bunches? Can you get hot and really, really extend things out? And when you're setting a points record for a team that's had a lot of very good offenses here in its history, I think that this does show that indeed, yes, they can. Absolutely, they can. And so just always keep in mind on this, on, looking at Darnold, wanting more from him, maybe a little bit here, like Darnold frustrates me, or the rushing offense frustrates you, or the fact lack of scoring frustrates you. Always remember this little graphic right here, because I think it just speaks to all of this, right to the heart of it. Almost 30 points a game your Seahawks team is generating. And as a baseline, bottom line, this is just like, distill it all down. You're scoring 30 points a game. you're getting up anywhere near that into the playoffs, you're going to be winning the playoffs. There's a really great chance you're going to end up on in the Super Bowl. So just want to make sure with this initial point that we look at here that we always keep this in mind a little bit. And remembering that though it's okay to want more and better perfection, as it were, this has been a very successful year. And let's not forget, this is the first year of Sam Darnold. This is the first year of Clint Kubiak. If they're putting 30 up points a game in the first season when there's supposed to be all these kinks to have to work out, there's all these bumps in the road you got to iron out. If that's the case, what the hell is this thing going to be like in year 2? Can you only imagine? And well, we'll see if it does fit the form of that, because of course Kubiak, with that points amount that they've set, is going to get some looks. As far as head coaching, I don't know if he's going to absolutely get it, but he is going to get some looks. It is going to be a reality to the situation there, and very cool that they've been able to put up these points in a year of transition, in a year where the offense has got $60 million of dead money on the books, and they're having to kind of overcome around that just a little bit. One part of this offense that has come forward that gives me a lot more confidence in this team as we head into the playoffs, and does have me a little bit more of wrapping my arms around this feast or famine factor to the offense, and that has been the running game coming forward. And this has happened by way of just kind of a slow transition throughout the course of this season. You had a team that, really did start out this year in a place where the consistency in running the ball wasn't there. You could have your games where you're going to have some big runs that would kind of soup the numbers up, but overall the consistency wasn't there, and the baseline numbers didn't look necessarily particularly good. I put together this little Excel spreadsheet, and it's kind of a lot of numbers here that I'm sort of showing off, but I wanted to show this in the respect of, here was week 1 through essentially 16 in here, as far as what you played these games up to this point, and how you've done rushing as far as some of the advanced statistics go. So you got EPA per rush, kind of an advanced analytical stat, looking at how you're doing all across the board all the way. ROE, running over expected is what that means, rushing over expected. So you're expected to get this, but you got that. And then RCOE is essentially how quickly are you getting contact on our running backs? How fast is that contact happening? And what you'll notice on this, and these numbers aren't necessarily going to show as much as the second graphic I'm going to show you in a second, but these numbers do show you that you can see some of the inadequacy in the front, let's say 9 weeks of the season here, as you see a lot of the negative numbers. EPA, you want to be in the plus number column. So when you're negative, you're not as in the good side of that necessarily, or if you're going to be negative, be closer to you as you can to be to the positive side of that. And as you can see here, there was a lot of negatives, a lot of zeros. The RYOE was negative in a lot of these games, a couple of positives in week 4 and 5, but outside of that, week in and week out, it was pretty bad. The contact before how many yards before first contact, which is the RYCO stat, you saw it was 1-1, a couple of good games there, went a little bit lower there. And then we can see on the other side of this to the back half of the schedule, let's say from like week 10 onwards, that while it's not perfect, there's a week 14 with a -3 EPA, -3 EPA, and ROE of a -2.7. You still had a positivity on that day. And overall, in the back half of the schedule, some of the advanced analytical stats here have been positive. There has been improvement. Is it a remarkable improvement? Is it you just turning everything? No, this has been a slow shift, a slow kind of gaining of momentum, a slow ability to kind of further and further be able to lean on this aspect of how you are rushing the rock. And to put this in a little bit of a better perspective on this, just take a look at this one right here, which is going to be your rushing just pure yards. So go outside the EPA stuff, which does show improvement from your Seahawks over the course of this year. And then take a look at this, as you can see, where if you go through the first 8 weeks of the season here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 times you've gotten up over 100 yards, 84, 87, 60-yard effort there, 88 yards there against the Commanders. Then we get into week 9, 198 yards against the Cardinals. You're really starting to kind of find some footing, 135, 114, 125, 129, 50 against the Colts, one of the outliers on the back half of the schedule. But every game in the back half of the schedule from week 9 onwards, you've had over 100 yards rushing. And so when you come to playoff football and you come to it being almost a new season and the wintry wonderland that you tend to walk into, then certainly it's going to be in our stadium, I would guess, if hopefully we get this number 1 bye. But that is something that's going to factor in. That's going to limit down offense. That's going to have the game come down to getting a little ugly. Have a game come down to really at times how well you can rush the ball. And the fact that Seahawks maintained commitment to running the ball throughout this year, even in the early part when it wasn't working good, when it was just kind of finding nowhere to go. And yet now you are slowly steadying, finding that success. Both backs are finding more successes this game as this year goes along. And this is a great development for this team to try to find its best version of itself in the offense in the playoffs. I'm not going to say they're going to be the most explosive, but efficiency, limit down the turnovers, get enough of those good tangible drives throughout the game, control the clock, and your defense and special teams will do their part. You just got to do kind of your part a little bit and how this will be, viewed from my perspective of it. But very cool to see the running game come forward. As you can see here again, just one game where you haven't gotten over 100 yards in the back half of this schedule. This is going to be a big part of what makes this team go as we go down the line on that. And I do want to just touch on one little item that I promised that I was going to touch upon because this was a little bit of the discussion that was going on prior to, just after the game, I guess I should say. And that is that, the Walker thing and the Walker turning down too many holes thing. And I just want to touch on this kind of as a follow-up and aside, because it's something that you hear a lot about in some of the stuff where stuff gets spoken about as though it's just absolutely positively the truth. And look, Walker wasn't necessarily well graded by PFF in this game. But I want to show a couple of the runs of Walker with this, because this is what I get to see with Walker a lot on tape. And I brought up last week that he is the highest rated back by PFF, or was coming into last week the highest rated back by PFF. He dipped it down because DFF didn't necessarily love his game out there in this one. But it was, again, in going back and watching the All-22 tape again with Walker in this one where, once again, I just keep coming from this a little bit confounded, where is there going to be a run here or a run there throughout the game that you can touch upon that he's turning down a hole, or he's bouncing it when he shouldn't have bounced it? You could maybe find the one or two there. And can you maybe not as much find that with a Charbonnet? Sure. Does that mean that, this vision thing is wholly holding him back as only he has one leg out there and he's just hopping around like a peg leg out there every play because it's having that kind of effect? And that's how it sometimes gets stated here in the fan base a little bit. And the answer is no. The answer is instead, you're going to see a lot of what I'm going to show you on these next couple of carries, which is not a lot of opportunity for him to do much, which is a lot of instantaneous penetration into the backfield. Guys right there in the guy's face as soon as he's getting the carry. Watch this play, for instance, and we're not going to run a lot of these, but I just want to show this to kind of level the point home. So right there, you got the guy in the hole, right? There's your hole. Bradford on his knees. No surprise there. I'm going to show you some good blocks from Bradford, so I'm beating up on him today. But it is what it is, right? We've got the linebacker standing in the hole. You've got the edge. You got two defenders with outside leverage here. So, when people go, well, he's dancing too much, or he needs to just get downhill and go, should just runs into the linebacker's arms? Should that do it? Should he be able to break a tackle right there in this tight hole? So yeah, he bounces this play outside, but why is he bouncing the play outside? Well, because you don't get down to the second level defender at all. And I have to think that Bradford falling on his feet and the fact that he gets up kind of scrambling after that defender makes me think that Bradford was supposed to get on that linebacker. It's the whiffs that force these running backs to bounce it out wide. It's the instantaneous whiffs that force the running backs to bounce it out wide. And this is why when Walker's at PFF at the highest grade and you're looking and you're scratching your head, you're going, but he bounces so much, but his vision, but his stuff, why would they put him up that high? Because they're seeing this stuff constantly run after run after run with him. Charbonnet has to deal with it too. It's both. And sometimes week in and week out, one guy has to deal with it more than the other just by the randomness of how these carries work when you're cutting up the carries. But this is absolutely something you're going to see time and time again here on these cuts I'm going to show you here. And I got a couple of them I want to show you here today because I want to kind of bury this point. I really want to hammer this thing home. Here we go again. What happens? Instantaneous penetration. And it's not all just a Bradford problem. I've been telling you guys all year, Sable has had a fantastic rookie year. Love the kid. He's got a lot of upside. He's really growing. He's also just transitioning from the tackle position to the guard position. And there are those growing pain lump reps that you get from him where he does whiff. Most of the time, it's going to be if he's going to lose the block, he'll initially at least get the block late, and then he'll lose it late. Bradford's more of the early guy that'll lose when he loses fast. But here on this play, Zabel absolutely almost doesn't get a hand on the defender. What is Walker supposed to do? What I just ask, and when we draw these judgments on these guys, what is he supposed to do? I think that one's a pretty straightforward one. Just one more time. Where's the bounce here? Where's the get away from that? Zabel's got to get his block laid. The problem is not Walker on this play. The problem is Zabel doesn't get his hands on the guy. Doesn't even get the block. Doesn't get your hands on the guy. That's the issue. And that's the issue at times with this rushing offense is as much as it's come forward, that is the thing that you see over and over on tape at times is that there's just the failure is too big from the line. Okay. So here we go again. Actually, I think this is the one I showed already. My bad. Remove that one. Okay. Outside zone. So gets downhill on the outside zone. Bradford loses his block. Now, this isn't actually Bradford's fault. The fault here is going to lie with Jalen Sundell. So Bradford's got to go over there and get to a reach block. Jalen Sundell is supposed to hold up the zero tech a little bit longer than he does to allow for Bradford to get to the zero tech to then take over the block. And then Sundell climbs down to the second level and gets on 53. But you can see here that Sundell instead doesn't really do much, does he? He doesn't even really try to even get into the zero tech at all. So he doesn't slow him up for Bradford. So Bradford's got to come a long way to hit this reach block. And that's what fails the play. Bradford doesn't get to the reach block. The defender gets backside to Walker before he can get to the hole. Another play where he's not bouncing it here. He's doing just what a lot of those people that hammer Walker on, stop dancing, stop using the vision, stop trying to cut it back. Well, where's there to go here? What is there to be done here? There's just no hole. And again, you can back trace it to usually a block that's getting left on the table there by the offensive line. Just kind of the way that it sort of goes there. Here we go again. This is a bounce play. So I'm sure this is one that maybe gets people hankles up a little bit. But let's slow this down, or let's stop this here where he'd make the read of the hole. Okay, so handoff here. Hole looks actually pretty nice. Problem is, Barner's late coming back on the crackback block. See how Barner's behind him there? It's not ideal. You'd like him to be at least even or a little bit ahead of him there. We move this a little bit forward. We can see the jam already maybe starting to happen here. Cup is barely holding on to his block off the edge. Bradford doesn't know where he wants to go, and Barner's nowhere to getting it a hat on 53. Close it up a little bit. Okay, so now this is where he potentially reads this. Cooper Kupp and Anthony Bradford have now collided. Neither are laying their block. They have run into each other. Barner has still not got to 53 on the second level. So he dances here and cuts this back, but what should he do? If he bounces it outside, Trevor Mooring, number 7 there on the right side of your screen, is going to go and make the tackle off the edge. 98 also has the leverage to the outside, so you can't cut it to the outside. 53 is completely freed up, hitting you in the hole there with 56 coming around the back side of it. Walker can feel that, and he bounces it back. And he goes and finds himself a couple yard gain. So this is a play where people will say, well, why is he bouncing that? Well, why are Cooper Kupp and Anthony Bradford running into each other rather than laying their block? These are the questions we got to more ask, I think, in these moments when the run game doesn't work out well. It's like first we always go to the back a little bit. It's like the quarterback where we sometimes go instantaneously to the blame of the QB rather than really trying to unpack the play in full and going, wait, let's really look at this one and try to see if we can, maybe perhaps come up with something a little bit better than just simply saying it's the back problem. Pitch play outside. Again, Walker gets to the spot quick. Nice cane, nice carry. What more does he do on this play? Where does he fail at in his read on this play? Where are there more yards left on the table on this play? Walker gets kind of hit a little bit by Seahawks fandom at times on this, where I get a lot of my chat about these inadequacies within his game. But over and over this past week and watching the tape and all that, I'm not seeing it. And I haven't seen it really in large part through most of his career. The vision thing it's a valid criticism. There are certainly going to be a couple of runs in there that he's going to drive you a little crazy with at times by not always just hitting the hole hard, fast, and getting downhill with it. But at the same point in time, it's not just specifically as easy to say that, he's turning stuff down. This is the one play of the game where I think certainly PFF dinged him on this one. This is the last one I want to just cover before we get on to the other stuff here a little bit. But this was one that I think that they definitely maybe would have had a little bit more of a leg to stand on. So if you want to tell me here that, he's got to get downhill here and just put the foot in the dirt, go downhill, take that. You can see there's a little bit of that corridor between, Lucas and Kupp. If you just go straight down the corridor there, he is reading with Barner's block. That if you notice on both Kupp block and Barner's block, both of those defenders are leaning inside to the leverage of where if he presses that hole, those guys could just lean right in and go get him. But this is a hard play to determine for sure on this. And you could, if you want to tell me that he could have gotten 5 yards going downhill here versus the 4 yards he got, okay. But again, what did he really turn down then? Did he turn down a 10, 15-yard run? Or did he turn down like an extra yard he might have gotten if he put it uphill there? Same thing was true on the fly sweep he took, where he danced a little on the fly sweep, but even if he hadn't danced a little on the fly sweep, it was going to be a negative 4-yard play instead of a negative 6-yard play. And that I would offer that, there is the good side of this that you get with the dancing too, where you get the benefit of those big plays. You get the 55-yard play in the Rams game where he bounces it outside in that vision that he does utilize too. So there's the good side of this as well. And to me, the negative side just isn't so great. That he's some limiting factor out there by his vision or how he's playing, the position. So hopefully a few of those snaps kind of show that off. It's something that I do just hear mentioned quite a bit in my chat often. And I just kind of go, I don't know that it matches to what I've seen from the tape per se. A couple little fun facts here, and then we'll get to some of our segments on this show today. I'm sure many of you guys have seen this little item, and I found it to be kind of interesting. And that is the Seattle Seahawks and the Pope connection. There's a weird Pope connection for the Seattle Seahawks and what's going on here with this team. And that is 2005. Pope Benedict is elected as the new Pope. Seattle Seahawks win 13 games. They go to the Super Bowl. 2013, Pope Francis is elected as the new Pope. The Seattle Seahawks win 13 games. They get to the Super Bowl and win it. 2025, Pope Leo is elected as the new Pope. The Seattle Seahawks have 13 wins. Maybe getting to the Super Bowl? I don't know, but a very, very weird stat. It's one of those just kind of crazy ones where you go, that doesn't make any sense. But you do find yourself with 13 wins again this year. We do have ourselves a new Pope. I'm just saying. A couple funny moments here too on this. Richard Sherman had a tweet here after the game on Sunday. Seahawks at 49ers for the number 1 seed in the division. I predicted it would come down to this game before the season started, and here we are. Marshawn Lynch replies, you didn't do shit. Sherman laughs back at him. Oh, Marshawn is a national treasure. Never change, Marshawn. Love you, man. That was very funny. Teammates still able to kind of needle each other. Marshawn gives him a lot of hell, which is always great, especially when it comes to the Niner stuff. Shout out to John Schneider for showing some love to Derek Hall, the man that should never have been suspended last week, and wearing Derek Hall's jersey during the game last week, which was pretty cool by John to do that, just giving the players some love and tipping the cap to them. Again, that was just a ridiculous suspension on that part, but we get Derek Hall back this week, fresh, woolly, wild. We get the full meal deal. We get an angry Derek Hall. We get a Derek Hall bent up, ready for revenge. The vengeance of Hall this week is what we will see. Certainly as well with maybe Trent Williams out there playing. And we got Demondre Lenore doing what he does, which is a lot of yippity yapping. This man talks more than anybody for being just a little bit better than a solid player. You would think he thinks of himself as the next iteration of Richard Sherman by the way he tries to pop off. And he hopes that Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be on him all game long in man-on-man coverage, which I find hilarious since Saleh is not a guy that runs a lot of man coverage, number one. It's a pretty zone-based system coming from Coach Carroll background to it. So it's just a lot of him talking noise, but please do this, San Francisco. Please do Lenore out there one-on-one and let Jackson go on him one-on-one because he will hand him his lunch if that's the way that one's going to go. But Not what I would recommend. Popping off on rivalry week when a game, giving people bulletin board material when you don't need to do so. I can't think that that's something that Niner coaches would like to see from Lenore. But hopefully Jackson's paying attention. Hopefully Mike's got a little bit of bulletin board material for this. And he wants it. He wants that smoke. So let's get it. Let's get it. All right, let's move it on here to some of our segments of the day. And we always start out, of course, with our PFF grades of the week. And we will start out the offense here today. As always, I say, PFF scores just meant to be a tool that we use with the tape and not just to always try as little as we can to just lean on it solely, but just a little bit of an extra bit of data to kind of lean on. Zach Charbonnet had one of his best days as a pro, and the numbers definitely added up to that. As, of course, it's really built on that 90.7 grade on the 90.4 running grade that he had on the day, as he was really good, got out of tackles, avoided guys in the backfield, then was able to go get some good yards, something he hasn't always been able to do. Really impressive game from Charbonnet. Good to see him coming along here in the back half of the schedule along with that run game. A.J. Barner was really good for you once again. He has just been a steadying force in this offense this year, and in a year where the offense hasn't always had the steadying forces as consistency goes, but he's been one of them. Jackson had another good day. Hey, how about Jalen Sundell, Abraham Lucas, and Gray Zabel, 3 of your offensive linemen in the top 6 graded, and that's, again, a Panther team that's maybe not the best defensive line, but Gordon's coming along. He had the strip sack fumble in this game, and you have Derek Brown, who's always a problem out there. So very cool to see that you had your 3 offensive linemen up there as well graded as they were. Lucas continues to put the finishing touches here on what has been the best year of his career quietly and earning that contract. Robbie Hoots has been getting more acclimated into this offense. A couple weeks ago inactive, and since they brought him back, they've had a little bit more of a use of him. I would say, too, as well, that watching some of the tape, there's times that they do fullback, have him back in shotgun, and that the defenses, when they see that, are having the linebackers completely bail and drop back. If Kubiak ever wanted to run a little bit of a fullback dive out of shotgun, I'm just saying, those linebackers were not even the least bit worried that he was going to get the carry there. Nick Callerup did pretty good as well with seven snaps he had in total to do what he did. On the bottom side of it, of course, they did not like Kenneth Walker's game, and specifically was really as much the pass protection as far as that goes, pass blocking goes, and what he did as a pass catcher. And because I think he had the catch drop thing, right, where it slipped out of his hands. Kind of tough conditions out there. Drake Young didn't play particularly good. That did match up to the tape. Cooper Kupp with a couple of drops, 50.5, well-earned grade. Anthony Bradford had a couple of real pretty blocks that I'm going to show you here on the best hits of the week. But overall, had some of those whiffs in there too as well. So it was a bit of a up and down day for him there. But when it's good with him. I'll tell you that. Darnold, 56.5, not his best day as well, but got you through to the win. And that's what matters on that one. How about Bobo there? Jake Bobo with a 77 grade as a run blocker. Maybe we're going to feel a little bit more of the force of him coming on this field here down the home stretch of this season, because he really does give you a hell of a run blocker out there on the edge. We've known that since with him the rookie year when he really came on the scene, and that was really the big part and component of his game that he was bringing. He was catching that first year a couple times too, but then really going out there and being a hell of a run blocker, which would be nice to see, because you can see with a guy like Shaheed, he's not quite the same kind of run blocker out there. And Kupp overall is a good run blocker. So you get a Kupp, you get a Bobo, like we had on that busted out run with Charbonnet, where he was able to break the big run out wide. That when you're able to have those guys on the edge that can block like that in a wide zone scheme that's going to work the outside of the rushing attack, it's kind of valuable. It's kind of helpful to getting some of those big runs busted out. Over onto the defensive side of the ball, Julian Love, what a game he had, man. He was just awesome in this game. Yeah, the interception's good, but he was really good as a tackler. He was in the right place at the right time. He's going to be the centerpiece point of my play call of the week this week. Love what we got out of Julian Love, which so good to have him back in tow. DeMarcus Lawrence, of course, phenomenal game. The forced fumble, creating pressures, getting the tackles, just being a great player all the way around. Ty Akata filling in well out there. They more moved Julian Love to the strong safety role in this game, and then Akata played more the free. But Akata had a really nice game as well. Really good in tackling in space on a couple occasions out there where he had to kind of break down against a tough tackle, and he got it done. Mike Morris making something happen with 9 only 9 reps in this game, but doing something with it, which was kind of cool to see. Riley Mills, they did a little bit of working with him, not only out of the kind of 3-tech role, but they actually had Riley Mills with you being down Derek Hall. Riley actually took some snaps out there off of the edge in this game, and he looked all right. Didn't do anything sensational, but it was fine. Uchenna solidly graded, which was good to see. Tyrese Knight, he's just had a collection of snaps here and there over this back half of the schedule, but he's actually had a very well-graded year by PFF for when he has played. On the bottom side of it, Jaron Reed had a little bit of a tough day at the office. Drake Thomas as well within that. Devin Witherspoon, they felt like he didn't have the greatest of days. I didn't think he played that badly, but it's where they've got him. And Reek Woolen in the same kind of place on that side of it. Byron Murphy as well will be my underrated hero of the week, was at 60.2. He's got a tough job taking on those double teams. And to my eyes, I don't think he had a 60 graded day, but when you're taking double teams on constantly and they're getting a slight bit of push, I think that there's a draw by PFF to give those guys sometimes the negative grade, even if they're really, for the most part, holding the line up and really causing a bit of the traffic jam you can get when you can't get the push at the point of attack, like they were trying to get with him at times on the double teams. Special teams wise, Mike Morris has been one of your highest graded special teamers and just found a role in this team in that way. Had another tackle in this game, but he's been good throughout this year. Drake Young, Connor O'Toole, Jake Bobo, fairly familiar names there and how they've played it this year so far. Dixon punted well, and Myers, of course, made all of his kicks on the day as he continues to put the finishing touches on one of his best seasons of his career, if not the best season of his career, in the pursuit of trying to get over 40 made field goals for the season. But that will be your PFF scores of the week. And let's get on over there to the underrated hero of the week I was just talking about a second ago, and that would be Byron Murphy. Byron may have not been well graded by PFF, but as Mike McDonald talked about on his on the I think it was 710 here today, yesterday or 2 days ago, sorry. He was talking a little bit about Byron and the fact that he felt like Byron Murphy was playing the best nose tackle in the sport, the best, basically, one tech in the sport with taking on these double teams. And you'll see Murphy here with Damian Lewis. Keeping in mind, Damian Lewis is a good run blocker. That's a guy that can definitely take a guy like Byron Murphy on his own. So when you're adding a second guy to Damian Lewis, that's a lot for a guy like Murphy to have to hold up against. And the double team hits, and he doesn't move an inch. And you can see that Rico Dowdle, rather than getting down into the hole and hitting this with force, has to instead bounce it laterally as he's getting to the hole. So this is one of those plays where maybe PFF goes, well, you ended up on your feet, but you ended up dumping Damian Lewis right in the hole by knocking him off. So you got a guy ends up in the hole there. It just becomes all clogged up. And it's kind of what you're doing is it's sort of dirty in how you're doing it. Like I need to hold the line and hold the ground as much as I possibly can. And these guys are putting 2 on me. My buddies will rally around me. They'll help to make the tackle. I don't have to necessarily make the tackle. It's great if I do, but it's not the requirement here. Just hold up the line, let the troops rally up around me to go and get the job done, create that clogging there like a drain, and you can have success. But no easy point to do this with Damian Lewis and that. You can see them both get it. Looks on his knees, still gets his arm on, still ends up being part of the guy, part of what making the tackle here too, by the way. But he is almost at times impossible to move if he can get that one leg with that one rep and the kind of the dead leg move that he does with the long arm. He's just about impossible to block if he can land that right, or impossible to move off the spot. And it was very impressive this past week going back and watching the tape again with him to see that he just rep in and rep out does a really good job in this way. And if you're going to, try to single block him like this, where they're coming down into his hole, and again, watch Dowdle. Dowdle wants to go off the A gap to the right, not there, got to bounce it out to the left, and forcing him to bounce it out brings him right back into the tackle. So does he make the play here? No. Is he the guy, though, that clogs the play up once again to reroute the ball carrier? Yes. This is kind of the equivalency to a quarterback being forced off their spot. It hits the back foot. He wants to be a rhythm-based passer. You get to him as he hits his back foot. Now he's got to improvise where he doesn't want to be. And that's kind of the same thing with a guy like Dowdle. Dowdle wants to get downhill. He wants to be, if anything, at the most, a one-cut runner. But let me just get downhill. Let me be physical. Let me go after it. And Byron Murphy right there to sniff this out, completely controls that block. If you're going to try to one-on-one him with a center, he's going to absolutely, own that matchup. You need to put 2 on him. And that's why partly you see the dedication to the double teams to him as well, as teams know they can't get away with trying that crap. He will make them pay the price. Another play here, that sort of dead leg play again from him. He's going to be right there on the somewhat right-hand middle of your screen there, 91. He's actually playing here technically 3. It's not quite, it's kind of 3 tech. It's kind of a condensed 3. It's almost like a 3-eye, 3 inside, because he's kind of just about inside the shoulder there on that. But a little tighter split here. And again, right there in on the play. So double team hits him, unfazed, doesn't move an inch, bounces right back up to be in part of the play there. And this is a tackle in Damian Lewis, by the way. This ain't just a center. So you got both a tackle and Damian Lewis trying to lay that double on him. Shakes it right off like it ain't no thing. Well played. His impact in the double teams and to be so consistent in this way was not something that I saw with Byron coming out. I thought every once in a while you could move this guy into the one tech kind of role and that would be fine, but I did not see him as being a guy that just could live in that role, live in that place, and not have a problem. He brings pass rush too. And we have in our minds the imagination of one day what it will look like when he does operate fully from just the 3 tech role, or 80% of his snaps come from 3 tech, let's say, because then he's going to get these one-on-ones like he does here. And if you give him a one-on-one, he's going to feast. You've got to double team him. He gets that one-on-one, he's too laterally quick. He's too strong. He can kind of bounce between the quickness and lateral quickness to the strength in the rep alone. Just kind of go like, oh, I'm going to first hit you with power. Now I laterally get around you. Oh, come up with a finishing of power. Now I can get to the quarterback. So he kind of can just go between those two on just even a rep where you're dealing with both, as you can see him kind of just work his way through with the power, but also you can see him start inside and then work it back around to the outside. Murphy having a hell of a year, should have been an all-pro. Put up the statistical production he did this year while doing so from, by and large, the nose tackle position. The 7 sacks, the pressures, all of that. To do that when you're consistently facing the double teams like he is, very impressive. I can't think of the last real nose tackle guy that I saw that had to play in that role so consistently, who was able to put up that pass rushing production in that kind of role. It's almost damn near impossible. You're getting the 2 guys. It is very, very, very hard to get it to go. All right, let's keep this motoring and rolling and going and cooking if we can. And let's take a look at the biggest hit of the week.
The biggest hit of the week.
I gotta lie, we got to go unconventional this week for the biggest hit of the week. I can't quite find the big traditional hit that we can sometimes find week in, week out, so we got to sometimes get a little creative with it. And, this has been a channel here that has probably been pretty hard on Bradford at times. I've got to admit that. Not always the most kindest with him when it comes to, some of how I've seen his play, but I think sometimes too, we do forget about the good stuff that's there on tape with him as well. And then while not the highest graded right guard, there'll be a lot of 12s are looking for an upgrade this offseason. We'll see on how that goes. There's been these points where you can kind of feel like why the coaching staff does like him and why they just want to see if this thing can just, the light fully comes on, that he fully kind of, realizes, the technique marrying with his nice natural power and length and size, and that it can kind of all come together, because on the reps where it does go good, it's pretty impressive. And you go, yeah, he can beat up on guys. He can be physical and bad. I mean like bad, like B-A-A-A-D. Here, great rep with this one. Derek Brown, one of the best defensive tackles in the sport. Watch 75. Look at him just dust him up there. Isn't that a great rep? Lucas helping him out. You love the double team between the two of them. One guy ends up on his knees. Rose boom by Lucas. Lucas gets one guy on his knees, and then Bradford gets the other one. What a beautiful combination there between Lucas and Bradford, huh? And that's Derek Brown. He's doing that too, man. I know Lucas helps him a little bit here, but that's just, he's got a little bit of that power to him and that length and that just meanness that he brings naturally. Is there some flaws in the technique? Is there going to be the whiff reps? Yeah, there is. You better believe it. But is he going to give you these kind of reps too in addition to it? Yeah, you better believe it. Had a couple of these in this game, quite frankly. It's pretty cool. Okay. Another one here. You guys have seen this one, I'm sure. So we got Charbonnet on the outside zone. You're going to look at 75 here, so keep an eye on him. Watch what he does here. Again, Derek Brown, one hand. Get down, sucker. One hand. Get down. Watch him, 75. On your face. And then you bust out the big run to Charbonnet. He's taking one of the stronger defensive tackles in the sport with one arm and throwing him to the ground. It's a different level of power we're talking here. I can't understate this enough with Derek Brown, former top 10 pick. He's a great defensive tackle. Derek is all power. He's all strength. He came out as this, barrel-chested, just all he would do coming out of Auburn was just try to beat the hell out of the offensive lineman in front of him. It wasn't going to be high art. It was just that he was going to be mean and nasty. Do that to a guy like that and do it to him multiple times over the course of the game. This is why the coaching staff keeps rolling him out there in the way they have, and why they haven't gone to Sundell at right guard and Olatimi at center and tried to make that the combination. Because I think that they just love the thought process of what if this guy can get this stuff in consistently over the course of the game, even with the whiffs. Because though this play is definitely set up as much because Bobo and Cooper Kupp here on the outside are able to lay their blocks really well and really neutralize their guys, it's also because you're able to then get Derek Brown to this play side off of his feet before he can get out to the edge to be impacting the run game. Hell of a rep here from Bradford. Hell of a rep. And that's not easy too. Let's remember, this is outside kind of zone. So this is a lineman having to move laterally while he's generating that torque and that power. That's no just simple, easy thing for a guy to do. Can't forget that part of it as well. Got one more here for our man, Anthony Bradford. One more nice one that he was laying in here that I liked. Got to give him some love here. How about him getting to the second level? Pancaking up the, where's my stupid button? There we go. So here we got him. 75, get down to the second level on the linebacker. Put the linebacker on his back. Get to the second level linebacker. Put him on his back. You know what we call that, folks?
He took us in the house and served us pancakes.
Pancakes. Every game you're going to watch Bradford, you're going to get a couple of these reps. And there'll be some bad reps in there mixed in too as well. I think over the course of the year, generally speaking, there's been more of the good reps versus the bad reps. There's been some even well-graded games from him. Inconsistency is still there. It's going to be a very interesting decision moving into this offseason of what the team looks to do with him and whether the faith in him kind of continues to maintain and that they think that this will continue to come forward in another year and that he is under contract for another year. And then maybe you look to deal with other parts of this team that you want to hit more soundly and that they don't go as hard to that point. We also have Haynes still on this roster and don't know where necessarily the team's at with him as far as their level of confidence in him in the long term. But it's all things with Bradford. It's a little bit like with the Walker thing on the vision stuff. It's like there's a full story there to be told, and it's not as simple as all good, all bad, or more good or more bad. It's kind of got to get into the depths of it, I would say, just a little bit on that to kind of get to the heart of it. All right, let's get over here to our play call of the week. And this is going to be one that's on the back of really Julian Love making the play. And it's one that's also a play call that's about setting things up. So this is the Julian Love interception here where he's able to fall back and take advantage of Bryce Young. And so let me set this, before we get to the play first, let's set the stage on this and understanding what had happened up until this point before this play occurs. And what has been going on in this game and what the Seattle Seahawks probably did in this game more than they had done throughout the whole course of this season is play more man-based concepts. They're a heavy zone team. And they will go to man. They will flex that in here and there throughout the course of the game. But in this game, they really leaned on the man coverage concepts. And so why this threw the Panthers off is because they just got done watching the Rams game where you were living in zone. And you've lived in zone throughout the year. And so the Panthers put a game plan together built on taking apart the Hawks zone coverage. And then when it didn't happen, when they're facing man coverage, much through this game, then Bryce's counter to that would either be, okay, I'll try to scramble and use my legs, or I'm going to try to throw to the flat and hit the defender out in the flat. And this is why you sort of choke them out so early in this game, is you took away the deep passing game, you ran the man coverage concepts, you pulled out the flat route throws, the check downs to the running backs out of the backfield and said, you're not getting any of that. And then you limited down his ability to scramble. And so you got to put it all together, and that's where the Panthers had really nowhere to go offensively and to make any sort of headway. So understand, walking into this first and foremost with Bryce, he's looking at the situation, anticipating at this point in this game, man coverage. We're deep into the game. He's seen a lot of it. He's dealt with a lot of what they've tried to trot out there against him, and he's trying to find his adjustments to what the Seattle Seahawks are doing to the other side. So when he comes out here first and he's trying to make an assessment of about what he does, you just had the wide receiver to the high side of the screen go in motion to go to the high side of the screen. Now, as he sees that, he's looking and sort of chopping the field up into two halves here. He looks to the left-hand side of the field. He's got two pass catchers. He's got a tight end and he's got a wide receiver. He has, though, Ernest Jones, Nick Emanwari, and then Reek Woolen there as a three stack around those particular two players, those two guys. They have three guys for those two in coverage right now and how it's kind of set up. And then you still have the safety over the top and Tayakata. When you look to the right side of the field, though, you've got the two wide receivers, plus you have the back to the right of Bryce Young. So from Bryce's standpoint, he's thinking Drake Thomas, probably a pre-snap thinking Drake Thomas takes the running back. Julian Love then goes to the slot, and then you've got your outside corner, and I think that's Witherspoon top side of the screen, who will then take the outside receiver on the outside. So he thinks pre-snap this is how Seattle's going to play it. Instead, what happens, though, is something quite a bit different, because you do get a zone coverage drop from Drake. First, I want you to keep in mind, watch Drake. So Drake goes to zone. Okay, that eliminates the flat route for Drake from Bryce's standpoint post-snap. But then what happens here is Julian Love fakes out Bryce Young. So Julian Love, remembering again, man coverage is how you've run throughout the course of this game. So when he sees an initial indicator for where Love moves to, he's going to bite into that indicator in part because of how you've run it prior to this point in the game. What I mean by that is, watch Julian Love. He initially hauls ass to get out there to the flat route. He makes this look like this is man to the flat. You got Drake to the zone, man to the flat. See that? See how hard Julian Love's running there? Right? So, and again, Bryce is processing all of this. So first processing, okay, Drake's not going to the flat. Drake's dropping to zone. Julian Love's climbing to the flat. Witherspoon's going to drop to depth at this point. He's got to stay up over the top, especially with the single high safety up there where they're not in the cover two shell where they can run the cover two to both sides and really get that clearance on the back end and make sure that nobody can get deep. So Okada's got to play this kind of straight up there and making sure he takes the deep defender over the top. So Bryce is processing all this. Love goes to the flat. Drake goes to the zone. Witherspoon's run off. And I have Tetaroa McMillan in a place where no one's really guarding him. That's the way this looks to Bryce as he's dropping back. And this is when you talk about Mike McDonald's defense, it's getting a little bit more talk this week, and 12 is 1. And remember, the whole big thing with Mike defense is that when we looked at it and coming into Seattle is it's a defense that can make you feel like there are 13, 14 guys on the field. And that just by the way they play their technique. And what Julian Love does here is create a 2-for-1 situation in what he's doing. He's taking away both the flat and then still also coming back and taking away Tetaroa McMillan on the other route on the backside there. And so this is where, from a quarterbacking standpoint, it feels like 13, 14 guys, because typically you drive to that route, I can just go, okay, you're going to the route there on that side. You're taking out the flat. I know now everything else is going to be very clear in front of me and what I'm seeing as long as Witherspoon carries to depth here. So let's play it a couple times, show it off to you here, a few different moments here so you can kind of see what goes on again. Witherspoon to depth, Okada over the top. Okada's not driving on the Tetaroa route. Julian sells it, feels the eyes, and then syncs with the eyes of Bryce Young, because Bryce stares this thing down the whole way because he's a young quarterback and he's still learning about this type of stuff. But a wonderful play, both by Julian Love to feel the eyes and to drop back into space, but also a wonderful play in that you set this up and that this is in a lot of ways a counter. It's a counter to what you've done so far, because I think technically speaking, when this is all said and done, Love is in zone, Drake's in zone. You've gone man, 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 man. Boom, you go to zone. Quarterback goes, oh my God, it's man. I know it's man. He throws it like it's man, but you're really in zone, and now you got yourself an interception. Hell of a play there. Hell of a play by Julian Love. Great play call. Again, not a completely awful read from Bryce Young's standpoint, because when you go back to cutting that field up in half sides here, and where's the place to go here on this play? You got Nick Imawari and Rick Woolen completely eliminating the receiver down there to the far hash side of the field. Jones sitting in the middle of the field. Drake sitting in the middle of the field. You got coverage over the top. It's also on top of Love just making the good play. The only place you gave them to go to here was really to go to the flat. That's the only real potential opening here there for Bryce on this play. It's well guarded. Even with Reek there losing it over the top. See how Reek technically on the end breaking route would have given up a little bit, but you got Ernest Jones right there. He's there to help clean that up if it goes that way. Great play call defensively in a season that's had so many of these really, really good ones. Just another one to the mix, another one to the stack. And very, very impressive how you're able to kind of force that. I really loved the game plan this past week. It's one of my favorite game plans of the year. You didn't just get this 54 yards because of the fact that you were stifling defensively. You got it because of the fact that you took away the things the Panthers wanted to do and where they were comfortable and where they wanted to live. And that's the, Bryce being able to use improvisation, Bryce being able to use the deep ball, Bryce being able to occasionally work on time, and then Bryce being able to really utilize the checkdowns and really utilize the checkdowns on the back of trying to get you to sky deep on the coverage. I'll look down the field. I'll really sell you on my eyes. I'll get you to sink deep. Then I'll come back over to the flat route. And the Seattle Seahawks on all of those items had a plan of attack for how to counter that in this game. Not merely just say we play our defense, but to mold your defensive game plan around what you can, want to take away from that offense, what they want to do. And it really did stand out in this game. It was very impressive. Really great game plan. I hope they can trot something out very similar this week to the San Francisco 49ers and how they kind of custom mold that one as well. Niners are going to be a lot tougher of an offense than this Panther team was. There's no doubt about that. But I still think that there are some similar things that you can kind of do from this Panther game against that Niner attack nonetheless. I think there's a lot of things within what Bryce Young does in playing the position that's very, very similar to what Brock Purdy does in playing the position. Brock's a better quarterback. Brock's got more short area quickness, probably does have a better understanding of going through reads and being able to decipher defenses much better than Bryce does. But there is some things I think you can do in the strat and the game plan here this upcoming week that could allow you to find a little bit of headway. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit of headway. All right, those are our segments on that. One last one here to go, and we are going to take a look. Always got to keep an eye on, even at the end of the year, most especially at the end of the year when it's all for the marbles, when it all comes down to this. Let's take a look at the NFC West and what the hell is going on. What's going on with the NFC West? Well, good things. By far, this is going to be a year where the best division in football, without a doubt, no doubt about it, inarguable, undebatable, the Seattle Seahawks, the Niners, the Rams make this division the best division in all of football. Seattle goes to 13-3. The Niners 12-4 with the win over the Bears. It was a very exciting game from just football fan standpoint to watch the Niners and the Bears go back and forth. Not a lot of defense being played in that game. Niners offense is humming right now. There is no doubt about that. Getting themselves to 12-4 in a year where nobody thought they could get here. It has been a little bit of, in my opinion, on this resurgence with Brock as you look at it since like the Cardinal game. You're playing a Cardinal defense, a Panther defense. Browns defense is a pretty good defense. I'll give them that to put up the 26 on them, but still not a good team. The Titans, not a good defense. Colts, not a good defense. Bears, probably not a particularly good defense. So there is a little bit of wonder from my standpoint on this of kind of feasting on a little bit of the low rungs here. I still think the Niners offense is dangerous. Don't get me wrong there. And they've earned the right to have this record and be in this position they are. Them as much as anybody, considering the injury situation they've dealt with through so much of this year. But they find themselves 12-4. We face them, of course, this week. It comes down all into this. Winner gets the number 1 seed, and what a big benefit that would be if you could grab that. Not merely just because you're getting the home field advantage, not merely just because you're getting the bye week. I was looking at it today and remembering that number 1 seed gets to basically face the lowest seed of the first round of the of the division. So you come back and if this is a Niner team that you finally solve their number and the injury situation they're dealing with and face them back in another round here after the bye once again is possibility here. So there's a lot of ways this could kind of sort of still shake out into the sort of second, third round, but got to get this win this week. Niners, hell of a year for them. Shanahan definitely deserves to win Coach of the Year. He's done his best work this season, considering all of the injuries he's had to deal with. The Rams lost to the Atlanta Falcons. We all kind of wondered a little bit if maybe there was a feeling that, that game just didn't quite get kicked through as seamlessly as the Ram fans would like us to be believed. That, that we all kind of went, boy, you guys are really the complaining about the refs and the just kind of stuck in this game and not able to kind of kick it through. And boy, it's just kind of getting stuck. And you guys, are you really going to be able to move this on to Atlanta next week? Are you going to be able to flush it and get to the next game? It did really feel like in that first 3 quarters of that Atlanta Falcon Ram game, they fell down 21-0 in that game, that there was a little bit of that residual sort of, they hadn't shaken it off, that there were a little bit of still carrying a little bit of the weight of that game. And it cost them as they did lose. They're looking in a position now of being maybe even the 6th seed here going into the playoffs. It's going to be an uphill battle for them to go back out on the road. They have a defense that over the back half of the schedule has been faltering and has been struggling, and slowly but surely their struggles against the run game continue to fit back more to form of what it was last year, where that was a little bit of their kryptonite. We saw the Eagles really able to take advantage of that, and they very well might face the Eagles, a team that's beat them 3 times in the first round of that playoffs. So an uphill battle for a Rams team that many people have as the by far runaway favorite to go and win the Super Bowl, or to be the number 1 team to be considered that. It's going to be an uphill battle for them. The Arizona Cardinals, 3-13 season. They're just hoping they get a good draft pick at this point. The Cancun Cardinals checked out long ago, and they lose to the Bengals this past week, but they are done. The injuries have mounted up across the board on that team. Gannon may very well be fired at this point, still up in the air as far as that side goes. Is what it is from their standpoint. Disappointing season. Definitely a feeling of going a little bit backwards from the progress they had made over the past couple of years. But tough for them in a division that is, again, best division in all of football. Nobody can stack it up like this. I mean, just look at the point differential alone. Over there in the NFC South, you have negative point differential through all 4 freaking teams. In this division, you have 2 teams over 100 and 1 team flirting with being over 100. Hell of a division we got here, and all the more impressive that we were the ones that were able to take it away at that point. All right, we'll get over to you guys here in the chat. I need to first, though, I want to thank, if I can, the sponsor of the show. Sponsor of the show is going to be Sleeper, the number 1 app rolling in the game today. They are the best. I keep telling you the best. They are the best. And why? Because they've just got more picks, more selections, more options than what you're atypically going to get with some of these other sporting apps that are out there that you can pick through. They've just got some great selections on this. They've got great promotional deals. And hey, when you use my code right now, Nest, they will match you up to 100% of your first deposit, up to $100. So $100 from me to you through the site, Sleeper. And they also have a free $20 entry, no deposit needed. So that's $120 from me to you. Terms and conditions do apply. Please see their site for details. There is still a bit of restrictions, I'm being told, in the state of Washington right now in using the app in total fullness, but they are just figuring out the taxation situation within the state. I'm being told that this should be opened up a lot more sooner, quicker here, any point in time. You can use it in a casino in full, so a lot of casinos in the state of Washington, all over the place. If you are in a casino, you can use the app in full, get that 120 in your pocket from me to you, and support the show at the very same time. These are my picks for the week. I got Sam Darnold over 239 passing yards. 49er defense gives up a lot of passing yards. I think Charbonnet is going to do a lot of good running downhill in this game with no Fred Warner as well. 41.5 rushing yards for him. Brock Purdy over 242.5 yards passing, because I think they're going to have to throw the ball here. I don't think they're going to get the job done rushing against us. Ricky Pearsall over 3.5 receptions. Just think he's going to get worked a good amount here by this Niner team out of the slot in this game. Will be an interesting matchup to watch how it's countered up between him and Eamon Wari. The first game, remembering you lost Eamon Wari a couple plays into the game, and then that forced you to have to kick Witherspoon from outside into inside. It robbed you kind of 2 positions in one there a little bit in how it played out. Now you get those guys both free and flowing out there and going good, and maybe that'll make this defense a little bit more tighter against this 49er attack here this upcoming week. Thank you to Sleeper, though, for sponsoring the show. Thank you to you guys for utilizing that code. I really appreciate you guys for doing that throughout the course of this year as you have, especially as you've had to sometimes go in the casino to utilize it. But let's go over here and see where some folks are at, see how people are doing. We're going to go to, we'll go a little bit today. We're not going to go super long. I got a 3 o'clock show today with Jesse of Last Second Sports, a little behind enemy line session here with him in regards to previewing this upcoming Niner matchup. So we'll get them with you guys here quick, and then we'll bounce on through. Industry Worth. What's up, Cal? Thank you for the $2 donation, a couple $2 donations, and a $5 showing much love. Let me give you the heart too as well. There we go. Let me do the Britney Spears heart move. Industry. Thank you for all your donations and support. Appreciate you. Says B, do you have a good lunch lined up? I do have a good lunch lined up. Thank you for the $5. Well, you're gonna be buying my lunch this today, and thanks for showing the kitty some love there too with the emojis. I probably gonna have a late lunch here today, and maybe it'll be a burger or whatnot. We've got this show, and then we're gonna be bouncing right over to the last second show. So I'll probably have to wait a little bit today to eat, but that's just that keto diet, Cal. That's all that is. It's just that keto diet. You know what I mean? Hopefully everything's going good with you out there. Thank you for all of your support and donations. Still figuring out lunch. I gotta make some decisions on that. I'm unsure. Jeffrey Thistle coming in with a $20 don't know. Thank you, Jeffrey. I really appreciate you for that. As well as a big applause out there to Cal dropping multiple donos on. Thank you, Cal. Jeffrey, I really appreciate all your support, brother. He says, looking forward to seeing how Mike defends in the Niner game. If we sit back and zone, Purdy is going to torch us, and I'm going to need blood pressure meds before the age of 40. They've been saying it for weeks. Now or never. Start faster on offense. Definitely a faster start on offense could go a long way, especially providing the defense some room for error this game, not making them feel like they've got to sort of play perfect and a little bit like last week or the Falcons game where it's like, we got to hold this line until this offense can find its footing. It'd be a lot better if you can just have the offense find it some footing there early and letting the defense just kind of be able to run loose and free and at times even take some risks defensively, to your point on this, to be operating more in some of the man-based coverage concepts. I love the fact that we embraced it last week, and I hope that they continue to think about embracing it more further against certain type of opponents as we go into the future. This is a team in the 49ers that does not necessarily generate a ton of separation in their route running. So if you have a guy that's in man coverage and he gets beat, it's going to be kind of a contested catch situation, and he can bring the guy down and tackle him right after the catch. A la Juwan Jennings is certainly this type of guy. He's a really good contact contested catcher, but he's not always going to create a lot of separation. So all the more reason that you feel like you can run a little bit more of that risky nature. I think, too, to your point, if you're going to run zone against Shanahan, that he's going to attack that all day long. And, boy, he just had the Bears on a string this past Sunday night where it was like the linebackers sunk up, he had the over route over the top, and Brock Purdy hit it. If the linebackers sunk too deep, they would just hit down the middle of the field throws to McCaffrey, and then he'd go run 6-7 yards for a freebie easy one every single time. And you can't let them do that. You can't let them operate with that, just sort of making things very simplified. You come up, we do this. You go back, we do that. You got to find a way to disguise some stuff here across the board. You've got to find, as far as just looking at the keys and what Mike McDonald's done with Purdy, and that when he's had his most success against Purdy in the essentially 4 matchups over the past 3 years, it is when you are able to generate the quick pressure. It's easier said than done. The Seahawks defense has not necessarily been a quick generating pressure kind of crew overall. They're a high pressure generation crew, but not a quick high pressure generation crew. So can you find a way to create that quicker pressure here against the Brock Purdy? Because if you can do so, that's where you can really put this Niner offense in a bind, starting to make him make throws quicker than he wants to make them. That's how you got those 2 interceptions in the prior game against the Niners. And then you don't let him kind of do the improvisation stuff too. Because if you can get to him quick pressure, you can get him, from the point of that he doesn't just get to sit there on time, and then he doesn't have an escape out to kind of elongate the play. Easier said than done on all this stuff. I'm not saying it's simple. It isn't. There's a reason why Purdy has done what he's done and gotten the money he's gotten paid by the Niners. But don't make it easy for them, Jeffrey, to your point. Don't make it easy. Don't let him sit back and just kind of, cut you apart and do that. Take it to this offense a little bit. And make things uncomfortable, especially no Trent Williams out there. Stack boxes, testing their protection schemes, trying to run some games up front in that way. I think you've got to kind of embrace it all this week from a defensive perspective on this. Rather than like last week, you could kind of go to just a few set things in your model of how you would approach the Panther offense. This week, I think it's going to be a lot more of an elaborate kind of plan of attack. And hopefully they're able to dial something up nice and really put him in a bind. Because offensively they can score. If we can hold down this offense in the way that even though we did in week 1 to them, you're going to win this game. I know we'll put up 24 points. I know we'll put up 27 points. Against this defense right now, absolutely. But can the defense not allow the Niner offense to turn this into a shootout and kind of keep things respectable in the place where you're at with it? We'll see with that. Start faster, though, will take us a long way to get in there, Jeffrey, and things get tight. I think defensively, sometimes you get through the course of a game like that, you have to kind of be careful in your calls and careful when you get risky and careful when you blitz. And so when you have a little bit more of that room for error, now you're a little more willing to do that. And that's where you can now really potentially break the back of a team early on if you can take those kind of risks, because you don't have to be as fear-based in your approach defensively and how you call it. Thank you, though, Jeffrey. I appreciate all of your support, long-time support to this channel as both a member and all the donos you've dropped throughout the years here on this channel. Really, really thank you for that, man. Got to start faster. Got to start faster. Can't have a half where 3 points, 6 points. We need to come out of that half like 10 points, get into double digits against this defense. This defense especially, Jeffrey. This defense especially. Randall McDaniel. Thank you for the $2 donation, Randall. What made Murphy a first rounder and what made Poona Ford a undrafted rookie free agent? There's a couple inches of difference between the two of them. Poona Ford's... Let me see if I can find what is... So Poona Ford's 5'11" and 5'8". Got an incredible, exceptional wingspan to him. 29-inch vertical leap, 9'3" broad, 24 benches on the rep. A guy that shouldn't have gone undrafted, 280 pounds. So, he's giving up a couple inches, inch and a half, I would say maybe. He's giving up explosiveness that Byron Murphy's going to have. Murphy's going to get past him when it comes to I believe the vertical leap. Let me get Byron Murphy. Let me get his combine stuff up here so I can cross-reference this a little bit. So 33 inches, higher vertical leap, 5'13" or a 5'24" 40-yard dash from Poona based on where you want to have the measurements at with him. So 5'24". Murphy ran a 4'87". So that's blistering fast compared to 5'13". So faster, bigger, length is probably equivalent. So he's 6'1.5". There's a good probably 2 inches of difference there. 3 cone 7'4". We don't have a 3 cone for him. Murphy did more reps on the bench. So when it comes to testing, Murphy was just a better tester across the board. When it comes to college production, in addition to that, Byron Murphy was not just a guy that's a nose tackle and that's who he was going to be. Remembering with Poona, it's really, you weren't going to get much pass rush from Poona as he was coming out. That nobody really thought that was going to be the case. So you're looking at him as this guy that's a 5'11", 280-pound nose tackle. And so a little bit like, the troubling math at times in trying to look at Murphy and say, you can play that role, Murphy, at 300 pounds. I mean, at 300 pounds, you're going, I don't think you can do that. At 280 pounds, it's like, there's no way you can do that. Because this is used to be a standardized position at the nose tackle, Randall, where you had to be 320, 330 if you were going to be able to take those double teams on. You need that 30 pounds extra beef. You just did. Now it's kind of like, this is where the game's changing a little bit, where these guys are able to be a little bit more undersized, and Poona's allowed to get it done really as much because that wingspan kind of saves him, because he can, as Kelsey once said with Poona, he can get under the pads of you, and then he's got the length in addition to it. Usually when you get the guys that are the smaller guys that can get under the pads on you, they don't have the length. So then you can kind of beat them with length. They get you with the leverage, but you've got the length and you can kind of neutralize it. Can't really be able to do that here. When it comes down to it. And so, I would just say that Poona was also a guy that was missed pretty heavily, Randall. I think that's a guy that teams just could not wrap their head with enough imagination to understanding why this would work. You also just didn't have a baseline with Poona of that 280-pound, sub 6 foot player that was successful in this sport. And with if NFL teams don't have a baseline of a guy that's been successful at that size, they'll not have a lot of imagination with it. Whereas with a guy like Byron Murphy, There's been a lot of guys even recently at that size that have been very successful, especially understanding his pass rush was far surpassing that of Poona Ford on tape too, Randall. So it's kind of a lot of reasons within that. It's a little bit of the outlook of players at Poona's size. It's a little bit of the testing explosiveness. It's a little bit of what one guy showed on tape, an ability to be a complete player versus another guy who's more looked like he'll be a run stuffing nose tackle that's super light. Will that work? I don't think it'll work. And that's so it's a little bit, he's a really weird, unusual player in Poona. But yeah, Murphy just kind of surpasses him across the board on that with the measurables and with the upside and with what the tape showed, all of it. Thank you, Randall. Phoebe, Mike said, even if concussed, the player can play. So we did have Rashid Shaheed out there practicing. I saw the report today. So Shaheed out there practicing, a really good sign for this upcoming week. So hopefully he is able to get back out there because we need him this week. Feed me. Thank you for the donation. M. Jordan, thank you for the $5 donation. Bradford gets picked on for a slow first step of the snap, but I think he only has one false start this year. Compared to last season, I will take it. We want to your point, M. Jordan, with all these players, when we have young players that are growing and we want to see them reach their upside, we want to see the big, fat, tangible steps in getting there. We don't like the small steps. It makes us just wonder if the full step will ever really come. But the small steps like this offensive line, like this rushing attack with Bradford this year, the small steps have come along. Is there still the awful, horrible reps? He ends up on his knees. He ends up whiffing. He ends up turning around, staring back at the quarterback with a shrug after his quarterback just got blown the hell up. Yeah, there's still going to be a couple of those. But does he have some dominant reps within there as well? Has he come along a little bit in this game over the course of this year in a steadiness angle? You bring up the penalties, but I just think is overall how steady he's been as a player versus where he's been in the past, where that fluctuation, I think, was much more of this up and down game of needle, just up, down, up, down. And that was plain and play out. I think you're getting a little bit more of the consistent, consistent, we're consistent. So it is coming. Maybe not as fast as we all like, but it is coming. And there are some tools he's got in his bag, which are unique, which are pretty cool. And if he can just keep getting a little bit by bit better, maybe he'll do enough to kind of engender himself to the team to feel like they can run with him for another year there. Willius, thank you for the $2 donation. He says the Rams haven't shook the curse wheel. No, they haven't. And I mentioned it after the game. I told you guys, man, the way I'm hearing Ram fans talk and the way that this discussion's breaking down after this game is one where they're kind of spinning out and going on tilt a little bit here. And there's really not a reason for them to do so. And I tried to kind of explain that to Rams fans. I was on the round table last night having the same kind of discussion a little bit, and just that you felt in that first game in Atlanta, the reverberation of that. And it was the way that they were talking about McVay talking about officials and Puka talking about officials, and like, your head's in the wrong place. Like, you guys didn't lose that game because of officials. And if you're going to get caught up on the officials, you're getting caught up on the wrong things that cost you to lose, and you're not going to fix them. And maybe they didn't fix them. They're here against Atlanta after that point. So it does feel like that's gotten a little bit in their head, that Seahawks loss. And this may be the thing we come to find, that just sort of send a reverberating energy through that Rams team that might also carry on into the playoffs, especially if they're kind of just getting into that sort of depressed angle of like, we got to go on the road. Now we got to go play this Eagles team that's had our number so many times. And it's stupid. You get a little bit of that feeling versus who. It doesn't matter where we play. It doesn't matter who we play. We're going to beat them no matter what. And that's more the vibe and energy I think the Rams fans and the Rams team as a whole should be trying to embrace coming off that Seahawks. I think we had that team at home down to the wire. They had to do a overtime drive and a 2-point conversion to beat us. We're the better team. We'll get them again in the playoffs. No problem. We got them again down in the playoffs. Wasn't as much that vibe from them, though, was it, C. Willis? It's more of kind of like, this is a great injustice. This is the greatest injustice of ever. PGZ, thank you for 10 months, almost a year as a Hawks Nest member. I thank you for that long-time support, man. He says, B-Dog, salute. I salute you too, sir. Hopefully you're having a great day out there. Thank you for all of your support to this channel. Really, really much appreciated. You guys are amazing this year. All you do for this channel. Bryce Coots in the house. Bryce dropping a big old 40 bomb. 40 bomb, Bryce? Come on, man. Come on, man. Bryce, you are very kind, bro. With all of your support to this channel, really looking forward to that trip here at the end of the month, folks. We're going to go with Bryce and Dan Viennes. We're going to be going down to the Senior Bowl at the end of the month this year. We might be Super Bowl bye week that week for our Hawks when we're doing it too. Bryce, how cool would that be? But I'm really looking forward to going down there and doing that trip, trying to grind through already some of these guys in the Senior Bowl and some of the prospects to make sure I'm all prepared for it. And I know you're probably doing the same. We got the Seahawks Syndicate, as Bryce mentions here, tomorrow. So if you guys aren't aware, we got the Syndicate popping off at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be getting that show presented out to you today at some point. And if you guys can for me, please, I really do ask you, just this is a very, very kindness here. Bryce is going to be a real key part of what we do here going forward, both with the Syndicate and otherwise. And so if you can do me this favor with the Hawks Eye, go show some love and sub up over there. Doesn't cost you guys anything to do so. He does great content over there. Again, going to be a part of working with us here at the Nest going into the future, and looking forward to that. Bryce, you are very kind for that donation, man. I thank you for that. Hope you're having a great day out there, and really looking forward to the Syndicate. Happy New Year, Brandon. Happy New Year. Looking forward to Syndicate tomorrow and this matchup versus the Niners. Do you think we will see more pure drop back Saturday or play action versus this Niner defense? Kind of the interesting thing here, Bryce, is that when I was looking at the data from the Niner offense that I found kind of surprising in putting a little bit of this together, to your point on that is that, and this is the Niner offense information here, as you can see, but there was a few different things that stood out to me that were very weird from what you normally see from the Niners. And the first thing was the time to throw, 2.94 seconds. They're 27th in the NFL at time to throw, which I know that Brock does off-script stuff, but Mac Jones executed a lot of that offense through a big portion of the season on time quick. And so that number is up fairly high for them, which I thought was substantial. The other thing that I thought was interesting was the 28th in play action. And so the 28th in play action is another one where this used to be more of a bread and butter of the Niner offense, Bryce, but yet we find in this particular year that they seem to be kind of doing away with that. So I'm a little unsure, to be honest with you, on this based on what I've seen from the Niners and how they've played it, and then how they might look to play us. I would think the answer would be yes. The data doesn't say that that's what they're going to do, but I think that when it comes to watching, I was rewatching and I'm prepping for a show tomorrow that I'm going to be looking at, kind of Bryce, I'm going to be looking at, and I'll bring maybe some of the clips we can use for the show on the Syndicate as well, but going back through and just watching the Brock Purdy cut-ups on the throws and what they did. And that there was a good amount of the drop back stuff that was just pure drop back. There was a good amount of mixing in the play action. I think the thing that they want to really try to do within how they attack the Hawks defense is that you run light box, so you run the play action, and you're really wanting the false steps of the linebackers, the false steps of the cornerbacks to be able to come down and then work it off of the route. There was a parasol crosser in the game that they worked that was really specifically off first Witherspoon on the play, had to play the run, and then he could climb back onto Parasol in the crosser. But that was too late at that point. Parasol is going to be free and clear. You got to be on that route from the jump as a cornerback, right on top of it to stay step for step with the receiver. You can't have that bite where you're going in. And that's where I go, well, okay, you don't want to run play action, but with this Hawk defense, that because of the light box, there is such a heavy onus upon those back-end defenders coming up and filling their gaps that they can now get caught up over the top in the passing attack on the back of when you're going to, run that play action. Now, Seattle has been able to counter some of this throughout the course of the year at times, Bryce, by having essentially the unblocked defender off the edge climb down onto the cornerback out of play action. And then instead of playing to the run, you just play to the quarterback. And I got to say, with the way the Niners 3.9 yards per carry with McCaffrey, they're not quite the team that like a Falcons team is with Bijan Robinson, or a team like the Colts are with Taylor, where that guy could sit there and just gouge you all day for 8-yard runs, say nothing of busting out a home run. And then with McCaffrey, you're going, okay, I'm a little more willing now to have you run play action and drive my edge down on the quarterback, because I know my back-end defenders will be enough to keep this cleaned up against McCaffrey as a runner to the other side there. So that's one little counter. Of course, we really saw it in, I think, that Rams first game, them really start to, Bryce, bring that out to big effect. The unblocked defender, get on the quarterback on play action. Treat it every time like it's play action, and it's not going to be a handoff. So there's a little bit of that you can do to kind of counter some of it. But I mean, 28th man, as you can see here, I couldn't make much sense of this. Quite frankly, Bryce, there's a lot of the numbers with the Niners this year that just doesn't make sense. And I think it speaks to a little bit of Shanahan's ability to evolve and modernize and not just be what he's been 5 years ago and what he was 3 years ago, and that's what he's going to be now. That there's certainly going to be elements to what that Niner offense was 5 years ago, and then there's going to be the new elements that he kind of builds in there too. There's a lot of stuff spread conceptually. There's a lot of the shotgun RPO stuff that they do with Brock, which technically is, certainly play action technically, but it's just very hard to deal with. It's a very heavy mixture of stuff all across the board. And teams aren't blitzing them much, which would lead me to believe that there's a hesitancy as well as going after them and blitzing them very often, and that we'll probably not do too much of that. We didn't do too much of it in the first matchup either, nor has Mike McDonald, by and large, Bryce, gone after. I'm trying to put a graphic together, but you've got the 4 games that you've played of McDonald against Shanahan. In 23, you blitzed 21.6% of the time. 24, you blitzed 19.4% of the time. In the second game in 2024, where you played on the road, you blitzed 40% of the time, but I think you did that as much because of the fact that it was a rainy day and you weren't as worried about the receivers generating separation by the Niners. And then this year, back to 15.8%. So they actually blitzed this year, Bryce. Of the 4 matchups Mike McDonald's faced him, he blitzed him the least amount in the first matchup of the year against the Niners this year. So I think it'll be a mixture myself. I think that Shanahan will run more play action than he's run by and large throughout the course of this year, and as much to try to take advantage of the light boxes and anticipate that that's how Seattle's going to try to run it up a little bit. So I do think it'll be a part of what you got to deal with there, but it'll be a mixture. Shanahan he doesn't stay to one note anymore. He definitely will work things around. He still is very much, Bryce, of course, in the role of rushing inside. Even this part, Bryce, 25th in rush percentage inside and 11% outside. So that's the one part that's at least made, when I looked at these numbers, that was the one part, Bryce, that made sense to me, where I went, okay, you're at least not going to the rushing inside thing. Like, you've totally transitioned away from outside zone. So still outside zone remains where their bread and butter lies. But that's also where I like this for some of the matchups we've had with recent running attacks, like Bijan can be. They do a lot of outside zone, but they can work inside with Algiers and him. And then Taylor, who's, of course, all about working it inside in the ground game. Even last week with Dowdle and what you have to do with him on the inside stuff. I think our defense is better suited to deal with the outside zone stuff and getting to that. They practice against it all the time. First, when you have the offenses that just get downhill, Bryce, and they're all about just trying to just hammer you in the run game. That's where the light boxes, I think, can sometimes get a little bit exposed. So we're well suited up in this game, I think, for the most part, to deal with it. But it's a great question, man. I don't have a certain answer for you on it and watching the tape. I think it's so much of it's going to be a mixture. And I think Shanahan also understands, in his respect for McDonald here, I can't just do one or two things over the course of this game. I could kind of do that to the Bears defense, where I can put him in a bit of this, pick your poison kind of vibe. I don't think I can do that to Mike McDonald. I got to be a little more creative, a little bit more vast in my plan of attack, because one size is definitely not going to fit all against him. Bryce, you are the man, though. I appreciate all of your support here on the channel today, and all that you've done here for the channel. And man, keep doing the great work over there on the Hawks side. And folks, please do get subbed up over there to the Hawks side with Bryce Coots, as we'll be getting the syndicate cooked up again tomorrow. And we got the Senior Bowl at the end of the month, and man, so many good things, so many good football things here, Bryce. God, it's almost too much goodness. I'm like the kid on Christmas, Bryce, with all too many presents, and I got my stocking stuffed and candy's pouring out the top of it, and I don't know what to do with all this good football goodiness. You know what I mean? Keon Lund, thank you for the $2 donation, Keon Lund. Pretty good for 2 picks. That's what you got last time. And if you can force them to become pass happy, then you definitely can get him into that bind into doing that. So he's a guy that, even this year, up until this last 4 or 5 games of the stretch, we had the Carolina game that he played where he was getting pick happy, I think, in that game as well. I can't remember if it was Carolina, it might have been somebody else, but he was definitely getting back there this year at times, even prior to the injury, where 49er fans were complaining about it. Niner fans were wondering if maybe Mac Jones would be the better option. So, he's capable of doing that. He will be a gunslinger back there. He'll sometimes throw it up. And when he does, you got to make him pay the price. And they did so in the first game of the year. Just wasn't enough to kind of carry it on through. Kind of give you almost a third time, because if Tariq Woolen had just gone there and, jumped for the ball, you probably have 3 picks and you probably finish that game off, and this game probably doesn't even matter at that point when it's all said and done. But it is what it is on that one, Keon. So I love where you're coming from, though, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hawk's Eye, thank you for another $10 donation, man. Sorry you had to drop the donation for clarification. Says, hey, Brandon, I was asking, what do you think the Hawks will do on offense in regards to our pass game versus the Niners? I appreciate the breakdown of the Niners offense versus the Hawks defense. Oh, my bad. Sorry, I misunderstood you on that. What do I think the offense is going to do in regards to the Niners? I think that there's got to be a heavy amount of getting downhill in the run game, first and foremost. Going back and again watching the tape last night and kind of taking a look at what's going on with this Niner attack and defensively what they want to do. They're going to run that wide 9 still with Saleh. And that's going to stretch that defensive line out all across the board there. And they don't even have what we will have, how we will do it, where, look, we'll go a 4-man front 2, and it'll be kind of wide, where you have your wide 9 edges that are going to be split out. But then you have your 2 defensive tackles in there that are going to tend to be in the 1 tech and the 3 tech and very tight. Niners will sometimes have you in almost kind of 2-3 techs, and then you got almost 2 wide 9s. And so there's these natural gaps there that do exist in this defense. And I've thought this for years when we've played them, in that we've done such a porous job of attacking those gaps and making them pay the price for the wide alignment. Wide alignment will help you to get out to more of the outside zone stuff and help you to be able to set more of an edge and collapse things back down in and really, crumple up from the edge what they're trying to do in opening up those holes in the line. But you've got to make them pay the price for the wide 9. You got to make them go, and especially Fred Warner here, Bryce, where he's the guy that cleans a lot of that stuff up inside by just being so good about getting around blocks, being instinctive, stepping to the right place and being able to go there and before the snap, being essentially a step ahead of things on top of being hyper quick. So that's where really, to me, you've got a deficiency from the 49ers in this game that you should be able to really hammer, especially with a Charbonnet who's going to be really good on those type of runs. You're going to mix a little bit of the outside zone stuff, but I would love to see this be a game that there's a little bit more of the inside usage against this Niner team to really test them out on that inside to see if they can hold up, especially being down the bodies they've been down and not as talented as they are not on the inside of the defensive line. And I know you're to our pass game. I know you're talking about the pass game, so I want to break this down too a little bit with it. Pass game has got to be set up, I think, on a couple different places here, Bryce. First, when we look at the defense here, we have a defense that's 31st in pressure rate, 22nd in rush EPA. So you got to maintain balance because there's places to attack in both elements of this team. They've not dialed up the blitzes. I was surprised to see, Bryce, they only had 29th in blitz rate. So even though they've lost the personnel this year, they're still not yet blitzing at a higher rate to overcome the loss of personnel, the overcome of Bosa, the overcome of Warner, the overcome of Michael Williams, the overcome of lack of good edge, pressure. So I think that this is a game where, you can, and I'm not trying to not pick an answer here, Bryce, but because this defense is so bad, it is a little bit of a defense of you can kind of do what you want to do from a passing attack standpoint. They're in general going to protect against depth. They're in general going to drop guys into coverage because they're not going to blitz. This is still got the inherent Coach Carroll DNA within this defense, being that we want to protect against the deep ball first and foremost. And that means that we're going to allow more of the shorter stuff to eat, and that we're going to be okay with that. So there's going to be a need a little bit in this game, from my perspective on this, with the lack of blitzing in the Seahawks, is to stay patient and to stay in the mode of attacking short, attacking intermediate. I go back to the Rams game, where the Rams are stylistically going to do some similar things defensively and how they're going to approach your offense, where 6-man, light boxes, and we're going to drop to depth in coverage. Niners will run a little bit more, I think, of the stack box rate, just a little bit more than the Rams did. Not necessarily to a great degree, Bryce, but they'll run it a little bit. They'll run a little bit more. But even that, it's still going to be simulated pressures that end up in 4-man fronts at times, right? So it starts stacked and it ends up light box by the time the snap comes around, and trying to just confuse the offense. But remember, in the Ram game, we did not stay patient in attacking the short passing attack. We kept kind of trying to seemingly go for some shot plays or looking down the field and really not just sort of taking what the defense was giving you. This has got to be a game where I think passing wise, the offense has got to take what the defense gives them a little bit, especially if they're going to protect so heartily deep and not want us to be able to just get up the field fast and make us earn those drives. That's fine. We can go earn the drives. The big part of the other side of this too has to be, Bryce, when it comes to the passing attack. Very big key that came out last night in watching the tape in that first game. I think that the Niners defense in the first game of the year did as good a job as any team this year in knowing where the running game was going prior to the snap. Was this because it's the first game of the year for Kubiak and this offense and Sam Darnold within it, and you had a lot of tells that you were showing that are not going to be the same tells you're going to show this week because you've had so much time to kind of develop the offense and remove some of that stuff? Maybe. Is it because maybe the Niners also play the same offensive system in practice constantly, and so they run the same plays, and so they know all the same indicators prior to the snap, and they were able to jump on that with 2 feet? Maybe. I would say that whatever the reason would be on this, Bryce, as to why that was the reality and what I was watching on tape of them constantly stepping towards where you were going to run the ball prior to the snap. I mean, taking some significant cheat steps to where the run play was going. My counter on that then is misdirection. And that's within the passing attack. They're going to step, play action, come back the other way. Those naked boots that you and I love with the quarterbacks, and especially those naked boots, dude, where you're giving the guy the drag across the field, you're giving him an easy throw, and you're getting him in rhythm a lot of times. They're taking those cheating steps. That linebacker, that will linebacker starts cheating over to the strong side of the formation, and he stepped, and you run that play action, and then you have the drag coming back the other side. That's going to be wide open all day if they're going to do that. I don't know that we did a great job in that first game, Bryce, of punishing them for the many false steps they were taking prior to the snap for where the run game was going. You've got to hit them with misdirection in this game. You've got to take advantage of their overflow. This is also a thing that goes back to DNA of Coach Carroll kind of defenses that this defense comes from. It's a very aggressive defense. It's a defense that wants to go attack the first thing it sees so it can jump right on top of it and really suffocate it. That's how it wants to operate. And that always within that, then there's always going to be the misdirection counter there where you can really then attack it, hitting it the other way because you get the overflow. You get those guys just going too hard, everybody into one direction, and then you come back the other way with it. Misdirection has got to be embraced in this game, Hawks Eye. I would also say, Bryce, I know we didn't love the Cooper Kupp trick play, and we retired our trick plays since then. If the offense is having another day where there's a little bit of a slow roll here to start things off, one way to maybe kick this into gear and then take advantage of that over-aggressiveness of the Niners, Bryce, would be to attempt to run a little bit of a trick play here or there in this game in addition. Misdirection, trick plays, I would maybe be more open to that this given week, given how that Niner defense played us the first time. So short routes, intermediate routes, definitely you want to attack in there. The over stuff, over routes, right? When you get up the field there, that's, I think, got to be a kind of a part to what you're looking to do as well. Even some of the stop routes and stuff. Another thing, just the aggressive frontier Hawks Eye is, the pump. I would love to see Sam on one of these weeks have a couple of pump fakes. I was watching the tape last night on the Reek Woolen one where he got beat over the top in that first game. It's on a stop and go route. And that what we see a lot of times from teams with Sam is that they get very locked in on him. If he's going to cock it back, that throw's coming. He's not pumping it. If he can pump it, he can get a defender to jump those routes, especially if you've been throwing short and intermediate all game. Pump it. Now you go down in the third or fourth quarter, you can go find yourself a big play up over the top. I'd love to see all of these little intricacies built into this offense this week. And I think if they do so, they can kind of move the ball at will on this Niner team. And they can kind of do whatever they want to do in moving that ball at will at that point. But short intermediate passing attack, misdirection, play action rollouts, stop and go routes with pump fakes, over routes, stop routes, taking advantage of the fact that the Niners are going to play to protect to depth, attack inside that, attack these linebackers in coverage. You don't got Fred Warner back there anymore. A guy that can be almost in every single play, right? He's got his hand in every single cookie jar, it seems like, on every play. Not back there anymore. You can take advantage of that. And you can put some deep drops built in here too, Bryce. One last thing. Some deep drops are not going to be the worst thing in this passing attack in this game because there is no Bosa and they don't have any pass rush and they're not going to blitz around that. So you both know they can't generate the pass rush for the front four and then you know they're not going to blitz. I'm going 7-step drops a lot in this game, anticipating that I can hold up in pass pro and that I don't need to run a lot of chippers in space. I'm going to run my backs out of the backfield a lot in this game. That comes back to utilizing those throws in the flat that have come more into full effect here since that first Rams game for the Seahawks offense. Kind of put it all in together, I think, and you're going to have an explosive day offensively, but you're going to have to kind of lean on all of it part and parcel here and there throughout the course of this game. I don't think you're going to be able to kind of just hammer the one note thing in this game as a methodology of approach, right? Like just like work off the all play action, or you're going to kind of live in this kind of mode. And if we can dispense away with some of the shotgun looks that they tried in week 1 too, that'd be great too, Bryce. Give me 1 sec, folks. Be right back. Thank you so much, Bryce. Appreciate all your support, bro. Sorry, I misunderstood on the question with that, but thank you for the donos. Can't wait till tomorrow. It's gonna be awesome. We're all gonna be hyped through the moon too. I know it. All right, let's get over to you guys in the chat here. If you do have a question, comment, want me to respond to, please do just put Pox Nest, Brando, HN, whatever. You can call me just about whatever. I'll respond, but just we always have some good. We got some inner discussion in the chat. So if it's that, then I'll probably roll through. Lenore embarrassing himself. I think you'd agree that I think most Niner fans would on this. Like, I don't want my players popping up. I love confidence. I love bravado, but like you just don't put clips out there like this in this kind of week for this kind of game. You just don't want to add any more extra fuel in the fire if you can. And I know it's Lenore's way and that's just how he goes, but be careful. You're going to wake up a monster. Good round table last night. I like that. Brandon balances out Jake on the round table. That's funny, right? Hawkline Heritage, my question to the Niner fans is, what happens to you guys if y'all lose? This is a front-running franchise who doesn't take losses well, just like the Rams. It's going to be very interesting if the Niners on different places this season could end for them, and I think the Rams are going to be in the same place, and that these teams are potentially both at a crossroads, but also potentially at a place where they just say, keep it cooking, keep it going. Stafford comes back another year, they just get, reload it back on up, especially with that extra first-round pick that they've got. And with the Niners, in their perspective, they ate that $100 million of dead money this year and kind of took it on the nose in that way. But you have a lot of work to be done as far as the franchise goes, as far as you got a lot of elder guys that are getting out to the end there. You feel like McCaffrey, Trent Williams are right. Probably, I know McCaffrey's had a good year, but it's definitely Father Time's going to catch up there, especially after 400 touches this year. He's going to maybe be up, especially with the playoffs. McCaffrey might be up damn near up to 450 touches here by the time this season finishes up. That is insane. So they're both going to be a bit of that crossroads point, I think, if this is a place where they both kind of lose out, fall short of getting to the big show on that. But the 49ers and both Rams, and this is what makes them great organizations in addition to this, is that they don't ever put themselves in a position of, like we have with the Cardinals a little bit here, where it's just all dark and it's hard to find much of a point of optimism, that they always are doing some smart things around, even when things are a little bit tested and tough, and that there's not clear decisions here at every turn. So I don't think anybody's going away in this division, but we shall see on that one. Dictus says, Brandon, please hit the oots button. Oh, you mean this button? Oots, 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 oots. Gotta bring back the oots button, huh? Yeah, Mike's good people on the round table. And good on Mike. He's had to go in there every week. It's never been easy with his team losing every week, just about. It's funny how things changed with Jesse Worship's pretty much all of a sudden, when earlier this year he wasn't, Jesse Worship's Purdy all of a sudden, when earlier this year he wasn't so happy with him. Yeah, it's a hotly debated topic in the Niner fandom, and I think Jesse's probably a little bit, and I don't know this for sure, I'm wondering if it's a little bit there with the Purdy thing, and that, he's had takes with Purdy and outlooks of Purdy, and I think he's actually been pretty fair in a large part in his outlook of Purdy a bit, and that he's not necessarily an anti-Purdy guy, just it's not a guy that when the fan base starts talking about, like, he engages at times and they start speaking about Purdy being Stafford, in relation, and he's like, no, they're not that. And then it becomes this, I can attest to this. There's sometimes these debates and arguments you get into with the fans that you end up running 17 laps around over and over again on the same topic. And then you end up getting burnt out of it, and you just end up going, I'm going to go ahead and punt this topic and just, here's where I'm going to live in this one. And let's just let this thing play out a bit. And I think he's kind of found himself there a little bit with the Purdy part of it. And I can relate to that. I walked down this bridge a little bit myself with Russell Wilson and Geno. So I can understand how it can get a little bit frustrating. Yeah, Jake was doing his best Jesse impression last night. No pumpkin watch this year, Nod. You're getting the real deal, Donald, this year. Addicted Brandon, if Horton is healthy for 2026 and Shaheed is extended, does Kep still make the squad? I think he'd have to renegotiate his deal, and he'd have to take a significant downgrade in pay to probably remain. He's going to cost $18.5 million on the cap next year. And if you're spending the money you are on Shaheed, and you're probably going to give JSN a contract extension, there's not going to be the money then for $18.5 million cap hit with Kupp also on the roster at the same time. So he probably would have to take about a half pay cut type of situation, go down like $10 million a year, but then you could afford Shaheed, then you could have still Horton here as a cheap guy. And I think you could still make it work at that point. So there's not for sure it's going to go this way kind of situation to it. Some of it depends on what Shaheed's going to make as far as an extension. If there's a team that gives Shaheed like $20 million a year, you're out. But if you can keep him down to like $13 million per year, if you can lower down Kupp's, $18.5 million per down to more of like that 10, now Shaheed's first year hit basically eats up the renegotiated deal for Kupp, and you can still keep Kupp. So there's a pathway for them all to remain. But on the surface of it, in general terms, I'd say it's probably going to have to move on at that point, with Kupp on the way that would work. Yeah, Cool Breeze is going to have to be restructured. Shaheed, a full participant in practice. And for the update there, Micah, good news. Very, very good news. Vince is crossed still day to day. Kind of. I think they're holding him for the playoffs, Vince. They said, look, let's not mess around with the hamstring. Let him just get it right, and then we'll pop him back into the playoffs. It's good news, Renacity. Rashid Practicing's big. Very big. Says he's getting through the protocol to me. He's getting through that protocol. Patrick says every time the Niners meet a top 10 defense, they get beat. We look at it. To your point on that, Texans lost 26-15. Jaguars, pretty good defense, lost to them. And the Rams. Definitely that's been by and large the case. They hung up only 17 points on the board against the Seahawks defense in that first matchup. It's going to be a tough game, Brian. And these division matchups are always tough. They're always a fight. Mile High says Hawks win when pigs fly. And then Vince says, did pigs fly when we went 43-8? Get him, Vince. Get him. Oh. We only have 13 wins because of the refs. That's rich, Mile High. That's rich. Randy says, how the hell did Brandon discover the connection between the Seahawks and a newly elected pope? It wasn't me. I can't take credit for it. I saw it this week and I'd been hearing about it. And it was definitely one that I was like, this is too both cool and just weird. And he says, I'm kind of mad at Brando. If he had shown us the stats about newly elected popes, I would have put my money on the Seahawks to win a Super Bowl. Hell, I would have bet the farm. Can't fight the holy, man. I can't fight the holy. So, okay, I want some pancakes or French toast. That does sound good today, doesn't it? It's like a little bit overcast and wet down here today, too. Yeah, Julian Love's one smart man baiting that throw between the dead zone and the flat. Indeed. And it's that drive to the flat that he does on the play where he's running like a bat out of hell for the back. And it's so cool because it's not just you're running like a bat out of hell to set Bryce up to think that the flat's getting eliminated. You're doing that on the back of as well of spending a game defensively eliminating the flats. Like where Bryce tries the eye manipulation down the field, hits the flat, and you have a defender within a yard of that running back to then bring him down on the tackle. And it's different defenders doing it throughout the game, but you always have somebody itemized over there to go in and make that tackle in space. So he's seeing that, and Bryce is trying to build up the processing in that moment of what's happened through the course of that game to then make that determination of that throw. And it makes it that cooler of a play for Love in the setup of it and to, as you say, bait him up on that one. Bait him up. Texans are legit. They are legit. It's going to be a tough team in the playoffs out there. No easy outs there. It has been a while, Jeffrey, since we've had a really true great quarterback come out of Alabama, hasn't it? They don't have to do anything but not blow the game. Yeah, they always seem to be guys that are more like just good college players, like AJ McCarron types, where they're just like, they've got enough for the college, enough arm strength for college, enough mobility for college, but you put them into the pro game and it's like, yeah, it's not going to work. Two is that way. Power coach, he's practicing. He's in stage 3 or 4, on track to play. I can already see it. This week is going to be special. Can you feel the energy? Oh, I can feel it, baby. Let's go. Let's go, Empower. It's that kind of week, man. It is that kind of week. You better believe it. And boy, we need him for this game. We do. Hard to see, Brian. They're going to run Kittle. Even if he does play, to your point, you're definitely going to see a little bit of limitation of snaps with him, I would estimate. Hard to see you just run him out there for 40, 50 snaps in this game. Where that foot's been or leg's been. Willis says, no. The curse wheel hasn't hit the Pats. It had to stay with the Rams. It's the curse wheel's fault still. They're still cursed. It hasn't chosen any target. Oh, no. BB Hawksnest. Mike McDonald said team policy said even if a player is concussed, they can still play. So there is an actual shot he can play. There is. I think it's just a matter of you just got to get through protocol. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird way McDonald termed that. But it's as much, I think, just you got to get through the protocol points. You're going to be good to go. If Ty Simpson goes in the first round, I'm glad we're not going for any of these quarterbacks this year. It's going to be one of those years, Brian, where people are going to super overdraft the QBs all across the board again. Not good. You do not want to be a team taking a quarterback this year in the draft. No. Martin Brando, does Kubiak need to scheme in more checkdowns or safety valve routes for this game? No, not as much as far as what you've had to do since the Rams game, I would say, Martin, and especially since you've had to anticipate a lot of times that the blitzings come up so heartily. Showing this stat from where you're at, looking at offensive wise for the Niners. And if you look there, you got the 27th highest blitz rate in the sport against them. Seattle has got the 2nd highest blitz rate in the sport against them. People blitz the ever-loving crap out of this offense. But you have in this defense of the Niners, as I'll flash this stat, a defense that's blitzing teams at the 29th rate in the NFL. They will do a lot of fake out. They will do a lot of, we're going to show you blitzes, but we're really just bringing 4. They're not really a team that's going to try to, and I was surprised to see the stat, Martin, was that I had anticipated Robert Saleh losing some of the pass rushers he has throughout this year and not having it as strong as it's been in the past, that he would overcome that by blitzing more. But it's just in the heart of that Carroll system is that it does not want to blitz. And so less of a need to go to the checkdowns at that point if you're not going to have to both worry about either the blitz or worry about the pass rush. And when it comes to both of those two things, you've got a blitz rate that's at the 29th blitz rate in the sport, as you can see on this chart, Martin. But if you look at the 4th item down on this list, or the 3rd item down this list as far as by line goes, they're 31st in pressure rate. So neither do they blitz and neither do they create consistent pressure. And that would be a lot of the driver to me to going to the check down. I do like, in general terms, having that outlet option for Sam so that if he's looking down the field, and then it's not there, that he's got something he can check it down to. But this would be one week versus some of the other weeks that we've dealt with teams in recent times that I might be a little bit more willing to not have to lean on that as much as we have in the past. And specifically because of the lack of pressure and because of the lack of blitzing. I think you're just going to have some more cleaner pockets in this game that's not going to make you have to be as jumpy about having to go that route with it, in my opinion. Daniel W., thank you for the $5 donation. Daniel, he says, Happy New Year. There's a weird narrative I have seen that's going as the 5th seed is easier for the Super Bowl. Otherwise, we play the Rams' likely first matchup. I think that there's a way it could go that route. but that's not been my understanding necessarily. Because I was playing with this today a little bit before we started, and I was looking at it for this week. So, let's say we win this game. Let's go through and do a couple of these like we think they'll go. Falcons win. Green Bay wins. Jackson wins. LA wins. Change. Go like this. This. We'll go like this. So when I was looking up today on the determination, Daniel, on who you play for this, so you play in the next round, you play essentially the lowest seed into the next round. So it would be one of San Francisco or Green Bay in this case, as long as, of course, the Rams don't lose. Now, if the Rams lose, they become the 6th seed, but then even then, so that is a way that, yeah, you could play them if they lose, but if they win this week, that pushes the Niners into the 6th seed. I don't know about that. I think what people are trying to do on this is sort of like, well, you go to the Panthers as the 5th seed, and then you beat that one, and then you're able to go play the Bears, right? Like you'd be you'd be facing essentially the Bears in the 2nd round if you could take down the Panthers. So is it easier to go Panthers, Bears, Rams, right? Or is it easier to go, as it probably plays out like this, where LA wins, and then it's going to go home, bye, and then the first round potentially could be, yes, it's possible. It could be the Rams you're facing at the 5th seed if the Niners and both the Green Bay Packers lose, but it's no guarantee the Packers lose in a division matchup there with the Bears, quite frankly. So it's on paper, I can see where they're going a little bit with this, Daniel, but to get the first round bye at the end of the day, to have that rest for those teams to have to go play that week and to be just kind of beaten up a little bit extra, and knowing playoff games take that little bit more out of you than even a regular season game does. I think it really just becomes get the number 1 bye. That's the best pathway. That's the easiest pathway. And this is also an easy one too, Daniel, where it's historically speaking, this is very much the truth. And that if you're getting the number 1 bye, you're going to give yourself that great chance to go to the Super Bowl. It's a big buoy to you to be able to have that in your back pocket. But I get where people are coming from. They don't want to have to face the Rams and after the bye week, the very next week. It'd be nicer to kind of face them into sort of like the conference championship if you have to face them again. So I can understand where they're coming from with that a little bit, but not to the point of letting go of that number 1 seed. Not to that point. What's the injury report for the Seahawks right now? We've got, we do have Rashid Shaheed practicing at the moment. Trying to see if I got an updated here on the old thing here. Let's see. So we got AJ Barner full participation with an elbow and a hip. We got Kobe Bryant is a limited participant with a knee. Charles Cross did not participate. Derek Hall full. Josh Jobe full. Josh Jones did not participate, but he should be fine for the game. Abraham Lucas with a neck was a full participant. Tyakata, full participant. And Rashid Shaheed, a limited participant. So no real surprises on there. Good to hear some of these guys are like Bryant working his way back into the mix of things, which is good to see. But those would be where it stands right now. Shaheed looking good. Yeah. Dogzilla, it almost feels like this will be the biggest game of the year for the Hawks, even if they make it to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I think it very well could be. I mean, that's setting up that number 1 seed. I've related it many times back to that 2012 year, Dogzilla. And what if in that 2012 season, you had gotten the first seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs? Do you potentially that year go to the Super Bowl? Do you potentially win that Super Bowl? Is there probably even a decent chance, a good chance you do so? Considering how that team was rounding out at the end of the year, how hot they were at the end of the year. I think so. And so this feels very similar. If you can get that number 1 seed and you don't have to go on the road, and this team's a year ahead of time, like that 2012 team was a little bit, absolutely you have the potential of kind of stealing one away a little bit, I would say. 100%. Julio, what's it going to take to get some respect out of Rich Eisen? I don't know. People just don't believe in this team. I think partly it is because they're so kind of new onto the scene as a whole. McDonald's new. The people with the lack of faith in Darnold, Julio, they keep thinking that that's just he's going to revert. He's definitely going to revert. But I don't know. You think we've done enough to kind of prove that our mettle, especially if he's predicting the Niners over us, that's a bit of an odd one to me. But look, even Vegas has got this down to a game and a point and a half. So I think it's going to be close. Van Prith says, if the D can keep them low and O can get a few things going, the difference will be our special teams. One way or the next, we should get this game. We will gain that first seed. Go Hawks.
Enough said.
Enough said. Love it, man. Love it. Rainforest Music, tell me why I feel like Charbonnet should get most of the carries for 3 quarters to soften the defense and Walker is let loose after. Well, I think Rainforest, this is definitely something that the fan base has turned over a lot, in that it's a very hot item on the docket of the fan base, in that we should give this running back more. We should give that running back more. I can understand why fans fall back into wanting to see this. Traditionally speaking, you have offenses that are run by one back mainly, and then a backup comes in and kind of spells them. So it's traditionally, historically, what you've seen from the running back position throughout your lifetime. But that's not the type of rushing attack that we're trying to build in Seattle. And you took these guys in the second round in back-to-back years because you wanted a two-headed rushing attack by how you sought to unleash it. And that two-headed rushing attack means it's going to be mixed in throughout the course of the game. They've done so throughout every game this year. The load balance has been managed pretty similarly across the board between the two. I don't think at this point, Rainforest, that they're going to get into the final week of the NFL season and suddenly now shift and change from that. There's been weeks that Walker's had really good breakout weeks over 100 yards and Sharps hasn't run well. They didn't come back the next week and go, okay, Walker's going to get all the carries this week. So I get where you're coming from on it. It's certainly something a lot of fans are talking about, but I think we've got to fall back in line with what the coaching staff's done here, which is that they said we want to maintain balance. We want both of these guys to get their carries and touches. We think both of these guys are lethal running backs that can do damage, and we want to use them both. So it's probably the way that this kind of fits the form going through the end of the year too. Seahawks paid Manning to throw the game. Kokins says, I had a dream we put belt to ass on the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. Ooh, I like that. That'd be nice. Be really nice. Diggs to the Packers? Wow. Interesting. We'll see what he's got left, I guess, huh? Joe says, why won't Jake just admit that the Rams' chances are lower now? It's fine to still pick Rams to win it all, but why won't he just admit that their recent play has hurt their chances? I think, you hear me at times trying to kind of push back on him on that same stuff of like, you speak about this team as this best of the best team. And like even going into last week, right? Or even coming out of the Seahawks game, he still said, I went into the game thinking Seahawks and Rams are by far the best team in the NFL. I leave this game where we lose by 1, and now I say that that Seattle is not even close to us, that we are by far better than Seattle, that maybe those are the 2 best teams in the NFL, but we're far better than Seattle. And that's what he said coming out of that. And it's a little bit like, you're digging in. I get that. You want to support your team. I get that. But we're also trying to analyze our teams and be as accurate as we can in our assessment, not just be pro our team at every turn. Otherwise, you're not being honest with your fan base a bit. And I do think Jake's being honest. I think he believes what he says, but I think that he gets a little bit the rose-colored glasses towards the team that they can kind of do no wrong and doesn't recognize the warts that are starting to grow on the back of the ass of this team a little bit. And it's where I think it makes for good content because you can frustrate some of the people out there listening in, and we have some back and forth on it. It makes it fun, But it's kind of the mode he rolls in that way, I think, a bit too. Yeah, the Packers need all the help they can get. That's right, good guy. Yeah, well, Packers are a bit desperate there, Nicholas. It's not a signing where like this puts him back over the top or corrects anything. He's just, as Koken said, he just isn't good. He hasn't been the same player since his injury. He hasn't been the same player since he got paid. And he's one of those guys that kind of shut it down. Koken says, Brandon, you killed on the round table. Well, thank you, Koken. I have a great time over there, man. It's so much fun. He says, Bryce could be our big Dom. Big Bryce. Bryce likes that. Yeah, it's Bryce Coos in the house. Bryce in the house. Should have Yarl. We should have Shaheed back if he's practicing today. He's on track. I'll try to watch a little bit of Ohio Miami tonight if I can. It'll be a good game. Where's the other Ponies fan? Michael? Is that his name? I think so. Haven't seen him in a bit. Now, come on, Tyrone. You came in here saying, keep pounding, keep pounding, keep pounding. And this is your first appearance back in the house here. You gotta give I need a tip of the cap and a little bit of nod to the Hawks taking down your Panthers at home. All that talk. Like Brian said, none of us ever saw Tyrone after he was talking pounding, keep pounding. And then he comes in for the first time with this. Tyrone. Better call Tyrone. Tell him to change his take. We might have got hit by the curse wheel, fellas. Brendan Perna might have got us. Oh, it's Eagles hit with a curse wheel, but so did Juwan Jennings. Ooh, okay. All right, so maybe we're okay. Why Juwan Jennings? Because F Juwan Jennings, that's why. He makes people punch him in the nuts. Enough said. Sanchez says, while I would like to win the 5th seed looking pretty nice, especially if we would let everyone rest. It's not a bad consolation prize, I suppose, Sanchez. I don't think we're going to let anybody rest in this game, though. I think you're going for that bye. Tyrone, it seems like sour grapes when you were in there with the keep pounding and then we didn't give any tip of the cap and you're coming out of the Niners going to beat you, though. It kind of seems like, we took your candy and you're mad about it, and now you're saying, well, no, the other team will get you, though. Still not practicing Catalyst with Charles Cross. Yep. Your all number one run defense will hold McCaffrey down 100 yards, and Niners will turn the ball over at least twice. If the Hawks can run the ball well, I think it will be a 2-score game. Indeed. I love it, man. I think you're in the place where I'm at. I had 31-17 as my score, and I do feel like it'll be in that place. Hamstring injuries do suck. Also, remember the first matchup? We held them to 17 without Imawari and Nwosu. It's true. And the S game plan by Kubiak. Also very true. Curse wheel helping us again. Juwan Jennings got it. Definitely going to fumble this week. 100%. He fumbles this week. The Brandon Kirsten wheel is going to gain quite a lot of concern and worry. Jarl and no Bosa and Warner this time. Can't undersell that, right? They lost Bosa last year in that game on the road, a game that was very tight. Second you lost Bosa in that game from a Niner perspective, that game was done. You know, you had to do a comeback, but that's what helped you to really go get that thing at that point. Joe says, do y'all think we should be a little aggressive on fourth down there early going on Saturday? Maybe go for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 2 if we're around the 50-yard line, or should we just punt it there? I think you got to punt it early on and first see where the game goes, because your defense has been so good throughout the course of the year that I don't think you can just anticipate that the Niner team is going to walk up and down the field on you, which if you're trying to be hyper aggressive and going for it on fourth down early in the game, I think you're doing so because you're anticipating you need to put points up on the board in this game. You've got to stack a lot of points up. So that would be more of a decision I would make into the second half after a little bit of a read of the game itself. John Steiner for Executive of the Year, Brian. He's got to win it this year. Kittle just returned to limited practice on December 30th. He will not be 100%. No, he won't. I'm sure he's going to give it a try and get out there, and that guy's tough as hell. And boy, he's a problem. Caught a touchdown catch on us in the little bit that he played in that first game before he went out injured. And he's been a thorn in our side. Ross says him and Wario make Shanahan and Purdy's life frustrating. I think it's definitely a different factor, him coming in and being able to play out there and first losing him last time when you had to then bump Witherspoon, what Jarls from the outside into the slot. So not only do you lose him and Wari, but you also have to now move Witherspoon from the place that we've seen throughout this year. He's actually at his best and most comfortable. There we go, Tyrone. Appreciate the congratulations, man. Hope you're wishing the best for your Panthers to go and get that victory this week, get that division. %, Kittle, still pretty good. B-Dog, that's right. Still a threat, you know. See you on the B and Jesse show. We got the collab coming up in about 45 minutes, folks. There we go, Tyrone. Keep pounding, man. Keep pounding. Oh, Randy, come on now. We can play nice. I know we beat you in the Super Bowl and we ripped you off with one of the greatest trades ever, but it doesn't have to be like that. Come on. Earl says, I can't stress enough how big of a deal it will be that Imanwari missed the first Niners game. And Nwosu has been great since coming back. This D's going to rattle the Niners. Let's go. Josie, all thinks some 49er fans disguise themselves as Bronco fans, starting to feel that way. Maybe a bit. Gibson says our road record's insane since Mike Mack, 13-2. Yeah, one loss this year. One loss this year too, Gibson. Just pretty incredible how he's had them playing on the road. Kitty cat. I know. Phoebe, Hawks Nest. Last time a team talked S to us was the Commanders game, and Sam had a perfect passer rating. JSN had a great first half, so please talk that S. Oh, yeah, keep talking, Demondre. I've seen a couple Niner fans that I've seen mention up in my chat since he's kind of popped off like that, going, Demondre, just sip it. Don't wake up a monster, please. We're telling you, CMC had a lot of touches the last two games. Shanahan's going to get him hurt against this defense. You got to wonder how fresh CMC is at this point in time of this year. And boy, he had a back thing that was causing him issues in the last game, and he was out there just struggling to kind of stay on the field, and 400 touches already this year so far. Whew. I mean, he's a tough cat to be able to roll through that much, but you do wonder this deep into the season if you're not getting a little bit of a slightly even diminished McCaffrey. The Pope thing's awesome. It is, isn't it? Nick DeBrand, thanks for the oots. I needed that. Of course, man. I'll always whip out a little bit of the oots action here for you. It always puts a smile on the face, huh? The Pope is with us, man. The Pope is with us. We're a godly team. Mike's just there for the entertainment, listening to the other three teams talk smack. Indeed. Josh, did you already see Mike McDonald said Josh Jones is going to play? He is, yes. So Josh definitely plays. Practice a little limited, but they're going to get him out there and going, which is good to see. CN words. B, what do you think about Kupp staying with the Hawks as a wide receiver coach? I think he's certainly got the mind to do it. I think he could be a great instructor, and nobody probably understands better some of the nuances in teaching the position properly. But I think that with players, it's one that they have to have a passion for coaching with the hours it takes. And I think a lot of these guys like Kupp, I just get the vibe of he can do it. He knows he could do it. He knows he could probably be good at it. But after all of the millions he's earned and after the career he's had, does he want to go back in and kind of go be a coach now and work those long hours in the building, grinding on tape? And I don't know if he's going to want to be kind of in that mode. Most former players that have made a good amount of money don't want to do that. I think if it was one where they could come in and just kind of do it as kind of like a full-time job and there's not those extra hours and you don't have to be working through the midnight oil, that would be one thing. But it's really a commitment. And I don't know if I'd be as much to say that he'd be as on board with doing that. He could do it though. Sure. B Diddy says, a Niner fan here. Do you think the Seahawks will come out passing or running? I think it would be a major mistake to not come out with a heavy passing game plan. I think that we're balanced, B Diddy, and that we've really maintained balance throughout the whole course of this year. I certainly think there's going to be some weaknesses that we're going to want to go into in your secondary and attack, but like you say, because that's just where you guys have some headway that you'll open up. But I think that we want to maintain balance as an offense. And, I think that your Niner team can attest to this. You have a running back that's averaging 3.9 yards per carry, but you got almost 300 touches on his back. And that's because even when the run game is not necessarily getting you the 7 or 8 yards, that you got to stay with it for a balance sake. You can't just get too one-dimensional. So I would estimate it'll be balanced, maybe a little more pass happy out the gate versus the run to maybe start things because they see some of those vulnerabilities there. But we've been running the ball better in the back half of the schedule. It's been a commitment throughout almost every game to kind of maintain that balance for the most part. And I'd expect it to probably continue on into this next week too as well, B. Patrick says the pundits only negative takes on Seattle, Darnold, and running game. We definitely get beat up on. It just gets us in that underdog role, which I like. Quinn says literally the only thing people can say negative about Seattle is surely Sam will inexplicably blow it against my team when he hasn't done it for anybody else. It's a tired narrative when it comes to Sam Darnold that I'm at a point, and you guys saw this with me on the roundtable last night. I'm at the shake my head point. People keep waiting for something to happen where there's been 2 years of data that by and large shows that that's not the likelihood of what is going to go down with Sam. But he's a guy that just can't, for some people's standpoint, shake certain narratives that are around him, whether he's done so or not. And that people just get their head. And I think it's almost just like a fun thing for people, Quinn. I think it's just a fun thing to say. Sam sees ghosts. Sam's always going to do his thing. Sam's going to Sam. It's just a fun thing to say. It doesn't mean there's any truth behind it. But to me, it's become a little bit of a hallmark of, are you going to trot out an actual nuanced take, or are you going to be lazy like a lot of other folks do when it comes to this particular subject? And I think you see a lot of folks get in that place. And it's one that to me has just kind of gotten silly, because the way that they talk about it, you'd expect Sam has like 24 interceptions this year, and he's barely been holding on through every single game rather than helping us win through the majority of these games, that he's brought you back from behind, that he's done the fourth quarter drives. It all seems to get ignored. It's like it just doesn't happen because it doesn't fit their narrative. And that's the problem when you start with a conclusion and you don't continue to take in new data. You can have a conclusion that's wrong, and you can have a conclusion where you didn't see it right, and that's going to happen to us all. It happens to me, it happens to everybody. But what you don't want to do is have a conclusion that's wrong, and then you dig your feet in, and then you get more and more data that should take you away from that thinking and belief. And instead, you just more wrap yourself further in that blanket and go, no, this is what it is. It's like, yeah, but the data's not telling you that. And I see a lot of people in football that don't want to take in new data. They want to just operate what was, and that's not the way the sport works, because it's always so changing so fast in that way, both for the good and the bad. Patrick, can anyone name quarterbacks with Darnold numbers that went all the way? If I went through NFL history, if I went through the last 30 years and showed you the quarterback seasons, yeah, they would. A lot of them would be in alignment with what Sam's done. Quarterback winning seasons. The model is not that you've got to throw for 5,000 yards and that's going to be a determinator of a quarterback. Interceptions aren't. Matt Stafford had 19 interceptions a couple of years ago. They won the Super Bowl. So it's, yes, Joe Flacco had, just in the last 10 years alone, Patrick, let's just say that. Sam Darnold has outpaced Russell Wilson's season in 2013 when the Seattle Seahawks won a Super Bowl. If I'm not mistaken, he's outpaced Russell Wilson's 14 season, outpaced the Denver Broncos year that they won the Super Bowl in, what was it, 16-17, outpaced Joe Flacco's season when the Baltimore Ravens were able to beat the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. Yeah, so even Jalen Hurts last year, Jalen Hurts throws for 2,900 yards and 18 touchdowns, Patrick, and he won a Super Bowl. So I didn't even have to go 30 years. I just went over 10 years and gave you like 5 examples just off the top of my head. Yes, absolutely you can. Thoughts on Brandon Perna with Will landing on us? I mean, it sucks. I was hearing that it didn't, and then it did. As Big Boy Jess says, second spin doesn't count. The first spin didn't land on us. That's Perna trying to, that feels like Perna trying to make it happen there a little bit more than the wheel naturally landed on us. But I don't believe in cursed wheels. I believe in great teams. I believe in great football. I believe in 3 phases football team that can go far. That's going to be what carries this thing. Seahawks Daddy, when the Raiders left Oakland, there was a mass influx of former Raider fans to the Niners, hence Bang Bang Niner Gang. Seahawks Daddy, Niner fans used to be the class of the NFL. They'd come to Seattle on the last preseason game and make the cash register sing in Seattle. There you go. First spin was the Patriots, I think. No, it was the Eagles. Okay. Why does he get to do 2 spins? Perna's messing with stuff now. They were being limited and careful with Jones, and they're just being careful, Joe. They're just being careful. They don't, you got Cross that's still on the mend. You don't want to go to the backup, so you're just making sure he's as fresh as you can have him for the game. Coke and Brandon, was Jake a Rams fan when they were in St. Louis? I remember you once saying he's from New York, so he's a Rams fan. Yes, he was a Rams fan when they were in St. Louis. And I think it's that whole thing where it's valid too. It kind of comes from the dad's connection, I think, you know. Dad turned him on to it a little bit. So he's a true Ram fan. Big Docs, Brandon, Lapani Lalulu broke his foot, I think. Guess my hopes for Big Beast for a center are on hold till 2026. Grown. Yeah, and I mean, he's all right. I got to say, I wasn't wowed by LaPlau's tape. It was fine. So, I mean, maybe would have been a target, maybe not. The one issue there, Addicted, just kind of comes into that. I think he's athletically a little limited. He's kind of cut from the same kind of cloth of a, like Jackson Powers Johnson, not the same kind of size exactly, but same kind of situation where they're just big. They're more of like, you're getting a bigger, stronger, bullier kind of center than you would typically get, but you're also getting less of a guy with upper level athleticism that you're looking for within the position. Like, it's a big driver of why Jalen Sundell is the guy that's starting for you at center right now versus Oluwatimi. They want athleticism. They want ability to move in space. You may have with Lapani a little bit of some restrictions there. Yeah, second spin can't count, Rundaz. That's Pernin messing with things. Runs and I both respected Fear the Curse Wheel. Josh Jones, all good, Joe. All good. Hawk's Eye with Bryce Goose. Thank you for another $5, man. Appreciate you. He says, FYI, Brandon, we lost DeAnthony Bell to the Panthers. Not great for our safety depth. I did see that. I thought it was a bit of an oddity too as well, because DeAnthony's been pretty good for you on special teams. He's been good for you when you've had him come out there and play at the safety position this year in rare moments. I think what this is it's as much, I think, confidence in Quandre Diggs, and that they like Quandre more than DeAnthony Bell at this point, Bryce. So I think that they're kind of, they're kind of like indicating that. I'm reading the tea leaves here a little bit. Thank you for the dono. But I think that that's what they're kind of thinking here, is that they've got that. You of course always have Nicky Minwari if things got like super, super bad, but you're going to get Kobe Bryant back. And once he does, you're 3 deep at least with your safeties. And then you got Diggs in there as well. So hopefully this is as much just a representation of the health holding up in that secondary and that safety room as much as anything else, as much as DeAnthony did something wrong or, something along those lines with it. But yeah, kind of odd to see that as well. And I think with Quandre, they've been waiting for him to come back from a little bit of an injury thing, and that once he's back and they know he's good to go, that you just like him a little bit better for all he can do. DeAnthony's kind of more of a pure, strong safety, where with Quandre, of course, he can do the variety of stuff. Diego says, love the NFC West roundtable pick on the wall. Ha ha ha. Oh, thank you, man. We had it was actually a Rams fan put this together for us. We did the meetup in October, and a Rams fan put a bunch of them together for us to have. And it was very cool. So I was like, oh yeah, that's going in the backdrop for sure. Once we get that, that's absolutely going in the backdrop. Seahawks, anyone see Tyrone the Panther fan? Yeah, Tyrone's in the house. He finally came back around. He needed a couple days to get over that loss. We finally got him back in the house. Lord Disciple, thank you for the $2 donation. Do you think Sundell slides to guard, Oluwatimi to center, is able to tackle? Oh, if Josh Jones is going to play this week, Lord Disciple, if he's out, they've got another guy on the roster that they would probably put out there at left tackle if that happens. I don't think that you'd put Zabel out to... I don't think you put Zabel out there at left tackle at this point if that goes down. I mean, maybe a slight possibility, but I would be very surprised if that was the case. I think everything's fine with Josh Jones. I see, and thank you for the donation. You're not alone. There's a lot of folks in the chat worried seeing that on the injury report and didn't practice. Mike said that he's going to be fine. They're just being very careful with it because right now Cross is injured. You can't call upon Cross. You're already down 1. So you're just going to be very hyper careful with his backup, especially the guy that's played very solidly for you as that backup. So they're probably just being careful. I get the worry here. I do. Don't know what the long-term plan would be if Jones went out and how they would do that. But you want to be careful with that, where you don't want to change 3 different positions at once on an offensive line to where now you're trying to find a fill for that left tackle. And now you've hurt your other 2 positions, Lord Disciple. And that probably wouldn't spell an improved or a line that's functioning particularly well if you went that direction with it. So he'll play. He'll be all right. Jack Maloney says the second spin is good luck on the curse wheel. Okay. There we go. So it's actually worked out as good as we can hope then on that. Mimi, Hawks Nest, Jake is now making his case for Eli to be in the Hall of Fame now on Twitter. The Hall of Fame is going to become the Hall of Very Good. That's what it's really going to be. Gibson, remember early in the season we smoked Pity? I remember. Patrick says, remember when everyone was dogging Eli for a regular season performance and then won a Super Bowl? I do. Is Diggs activated now? I'm not sure if he is or not as of yet. I don't think he has been, but I'm not positive on that one. And yeah, Dago, having Diggs gives us some intel on Stafford, maybe hopefully down the line. Didn't help us a lot in the first Rams matchup. I'll say that. Famous Seattle's the best team all around. Let's go, man. Got a double team Puka in the playoffs, though? Yeah, maybe. I think as much just we saw the Falcons play a lot more man-based concepts against him and have a lot more success. And a lot of what Puka will do at times is really attack into zone coverage. So maybe a little bit more of a willingness to run a little bit more man-based coverage concepts with him in the playoffs than you did in the last game. Craig, Seahawks broke the Rams enough for them to lose the Falcons. Kind of felt like that, Craig. Felt like there were some residuals there lingering from the prior week. Seahawks Daddy, I'm just wondering when the legacy media steals Brandon from us. I'll never leave you guys. I'm home. I'm too edgy for the legacy media. Way too edgy for them. Daniel says Jake was bringing up Rams losing games in their past Super Bowl runs and how that signifies they'll win it all. Laugh my ass off. He says, any Ram fans in here? You guys all talk this crap. It's complete silence. Very quiet. I have nothing but silence. Daniel Hawksnest, Tyrone went from a panther growling to a kitty with its tail between his legs. Laugh my ass off. He did a little bit, but our defense will do that to you when you throw for 54 passing yards. A Max 49er friend of mine just told me he ain't confident in their defense. I don't know how you could be. I mean, they do not. Now look, their offense has been great too. They barely have punted over about the last month. But yeah, the defense has been a sieve, a complete and utter sieve. Duran says, if we run the ball, well, we win. Good to see you in the house, Duran. And I agree with you, man. Run the ball is going to be a very key indicator of success in this game. I know passing is where a lot of people are caught up with because of the Niner holes in the secondary. But boy, I feel like you really can run the ball in this team without a Fred Warner and Bosa out there. Joshua, I love the character of this team. All of our players are strong, not cocky, and smart people. Agree. I think it's a hungry, driven group. I think it's a professional group. I think it's a group that plays with an edge, but doesn't have to do so and letting you know at every step of the way that they're playing with an edge. I think they just go about their business. It's like the mission over BS acronym that they use, MOB, and they all take that in tow. And I think Mike McDonald is the guy that leads this thing and makes it with his mentality kind of carry on down. That's the way it works with coaches, is that their mentality will permeate down through a roster. But that is the feeling I get from these guys too. And it does make them very easy to root for on top of being your home team. It makes these guys likable. It makes you go, hey, this is a guy doing everything he can to be great. He's doing everything that he can to help him make his teammate be great. That's the type of team that you absolutely get behind. Daniel says, B, I feel like the round table say they eat crow when wrong, but it always seems like they either avoid circling back or move the goalpost. The moving the goalpost is a real thing. And I've gotten in plenty of debates the last 2 weeks with Jake alone where it's like, I'm talking about one thing and he starts going over here, or he'll start going over here, or he'll start heading over here. And I'm like, I'm talking about this thing. Let's stay on point, right? It's frustrating to me at times because I do think that there is a little bit of the, I'm going to stick with my take from 3 weeks ago and no more new data is going to move me off that take. And it's like, well, then is it just a take you want to be the truth, or is it a take you're actually seeing is the truth? And I think that there are sometimes I get debates on that where I'm feeling like, I understand Jesse doesn't have faith in Darnold, but there's also a little bit of feeling like do you not have faith in Darnold, or is that you just don't want to have faith in Darnold? And you do start to feel like it's the second that's sometimes driving some of that stuff a bit in the discussion. Teams are total opposites as far as which side of the ball is their strength. True. I think our probably offense, though, has been a little bit better than where your Niner defense has been. But it's also explainable by the injury front where you guys are at this year and that side of it, too. So we definitely have not been bad offensively, which is a little bit of, again, that narrative that gets out there with Darnold and all this. It's like, Diego, I was flashing this stat up earlier in the stream. You don't set a record for most points in a season through 16 weeks, not needing the extra 17th week, and you're doing so on average points per game at 29.5, far superseding anything you've done in your history of your organization with even great offenses like Mike Holmgren and what he created. So it is one where, it's definitely the defense is stronger, but offense ain't weak. Pumpkin power, let's go. Mr. Kane in the house. Good to see you, brother. Brother from another mother. Says, God damn it. All the trash talkers leave when I'm off work. Never give me a chance to talk my S. I still have to wait 2 more hours to raise hell. No, we got a half hour. I got 20 minutes here. We're going to be doing the behind enemy lines, Mr. Kane. So there'll be a lively chat here in about 20. You can count on that. You can count on that. Van Prerith says that the 49ers play, they're walking wounded. They will be one and done in the playoffs. Seahawks are good on all 3 fronts. We will win the number 1 seed. Go Hawks. Love it, man. Get it. Get it. They go, really want Jesse at NFC West Roundtable to wear that hat on Tuesday. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's up, Slovey One? Yo, I'm sick of the anti-Darnold under the big light stuff, especially when it comes from 12. Sam's our guy. Let's pull for him. We should all want him to silence this lame take. 100%. Everybody wants this with him that's a Hawk fan, I think. Even the haters that are Hawk fans want to see this from him because it's how much he gets beat up nationally for this stuff. Everyone's pulling for him. More ghosts. Lord Disciple, I do think that Shaheed plays. I don't think Kobe Bryant plays. So Shaheed, yes. Bryant, no. Mr. Gaynor, is no one realizing that we are ahead of schedule? We are not supposed to be the amazing team that we are this year. NFL is shook. They don't know how to catch up, to your point, Mr. Kane. Nobody thought us being here. Nobody thought us even being close to being in this position, to be this far ahead of schedule, to have this many wins. Yeah, I think part of that is a little bit why some of these takes don't update with time, both be it with Sam Darnold or with this team, or that people can't quite get sold on us. Industry Worth, thank you for 2 months as a Hawks Nest member. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Also with another $5 donation. You're very kind. Very kind. Hope you're having a good day out there. Appreciate you. Nathan says, I keep thinking that Meow is our cat coming to bug me. Just me. Just me with her. Didn't know Diggs was injured. Been anticipating seeing him on the field. Yeah, just kind of a minor thing I think he's had since he came aboard. They've been kind of working through. Mr. R. White doesn't like Brock Purdy's dance. It makes my skin crawl. You know, like the Dougie? Up-tempo would be cool, Brian. Up-tempo is another thing you could definitely apply. Sam's had comfortability with it, and that's definitely a way with a Niner defense that's a little bit lean, especially on the defensive line, a nice little way to potentially kind of tire them out a little bit. I like that idea. Josh Jones is definitely playing. Definitely playing. Mr. Word, thank you for the $2 donation. Say something nice about Jake. Give him space right now. Jake absolutely positively loves his Rams and has ultimate faith in his Rams. I don't think that that's anything but absolutely genuine. industry. He's passionate. He does great content over there. I love working with him. He's a good partner in crime out there on the round table to work with. So, yeah, we go at it. But like we were saying last night, it's all in love. It's all in love. Be not sure the intention of the second spin is, but I have a theory. If it won't work on us since it's a second spin, didn't work on the Pats because of the Jets, the two teams surviving the wheel will meet in the Super Bowl. Let's go, Daniel. I also think that second spin doesn't count. You get one spin, Perna. You can sit there and like, why not just grab the wheel and then put it to one given team then at that point, huh? Well, that'd be ridiculous. Well, so is a second spin. You get one spin. One spin. Romelia, Brandon, you guys better not get swept by this limping Santa Clara Whiners overrated team. I agree. Behind Enemy Lines tonight. It's going to be on in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We'll probably put a bit of a wrap up here pretty soon here, by the way. BB Hawkstest, you forgot to tell Jake it was raining during the Panthers game because I kept pointing at that game. I did forget that. Yeah. I was caught up on a couple of other things that I had to get up on. King Bobber rewatched the Roundtable show last night. Seahawks are second in the league in turnovers with 28. 24 of those are from Darnold. Fumbles and interceptions. Not all his fault, obviously, but it's been a problem. Need 4-game generational run from Darnold, and this ring is ours. Flacco, Foles type level run. Give it to us. I don't know if he's got to get to quite the place of Foles. Foles was kind of in the zone in that period, throwing for like 400 yards a game. You know, he was going absolutely ham. But Flacco's fair. Yeah, the fumbles, as you mentioned on it, I think the interceptions are more of ones you can go to as being problematic or more of his fault. There's a lot of those fumbles that are coming about with him not even seeing the defender hitting him from a kind of wonky position. I think that there's a little bit in that King Bomber where I would separate fumbles from interceptions there, because when you do look at the interceptions angle of it, it's well within contention of the mean. You know, if you're a starting average quarterback in this sport this year, you're going to be around about 11 interceptions on the year as a whole if you've started every game, as Darnold has. So being at 14 interceptions, he's pretty close to the mean on that. A little bit over, but not significant. This isn't Jameis Winston throwing 30 interceptions in a year, and that's kind of the way it gets talked about a little bit. And it's not quite been to that level. Now, the fumbles are what they are, but again, that's, I think, a couple other things that factor at play there. I mean, a couple of those fumbles are him looking and trying to throw to the other side of the field, and the guy's hitting him blind side, and it's because your offensive lineman blew his block. I mean, Lucas's case, he's had to happen twice to him. Jordan, thank you for the $5 donation. Appreciate you for that. The last couple times Purtis spun it twice, it helped the team and or hurt the Broncos. So I'm saying, man, he can't be doing that double spin thing. That's not going to work. That's cheating. It's cheating. It's like just taking his finger and pulling it to one per spot. So I think it actually worked in our favor, to your point, Jordan. Once I heard it was the second spin, I'm like, oh, we're good. We're free and clear. On top of it, I don't care. I don't believe in the curse wheel. I am buying into it. They got us against the Buccaneers. Okay. I will give you that. It did get us against the Bucs. Yes. But I'm not buying that this thing's taking us down this week. Not enough power. This is too good a team, Jordan. Too good. Too good. B, what does the hat look like you want him to wear? I'm putting him in that hat right there. This will be the hat he's wearing in a week from now. This big old thing right there. Right there. Right there. All right. Well, we will put a bit of a button on this one here as I've got to bounce over and do the round table. In our round table, we got the behind enemy lines. So we will be coming back here in about 15 minutes with Jesse from Last Second Sports. And me and him are going to preview this 49ers Seahawks matchup, break it all down, have a little bit of a good trash talking going back and forth between us as well, I would imagine. I thank you guys for watching today. If you could do me this favor and hit that like button for me, get subbed up as well. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and helps these channels out like myself considerably. Big shout out to the sponsor of this show. Of course, is going to be Sleeper. Use my code today, NEST, and they will match up to 100% of your first deposit up to $100. But wait, there's more. Free 20, no deposit needed. Just create a login. They'll put a $20 into your account just like that. So $120 from me to you. Please see their site for terms and conditions. They do apply. But thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring the show. Thank you to you guys for using the code. You can use it in a casino in the state of Washington, as there are some limitations in the state of Washington Other states have a little bit more freed up to be able to be utilized, but do please use that code today. Great sleeper app. You can see here I've got my picks on this as well right here. We're looking at Darnold over 239 passing yards, Charbonnet over 41.5 passing yards, Purdy over 242 yards passing, and Pearsall over 3.5 receptions. Go make your picks, win some money. You think you know sports, put that knowledge to the test, go earn some money. I thank you guys for watching. I thank you guys for the great discussion today, as is always the case. We've got a lot of shows here set up for you this week here. So we're going back with the Behind Me Lines here today at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Coming back here tomorrow, we're going to be getting a show around centering on how to take down this Niner offense. I got some cut-ups I want to show you tomorrow, so we'll be back at that time at 12 o'clock tomorrow. And then we've got the Seahawks Syndicate tomorrow evening. So a lot jam-packed, loaded up to the hilt. I hope you are ready. I hope you're locked in. I hope you are ready for the Seattle Seahawks to finally put the final exclamation point on this season and set the stage for what could be one hell of a magnificent playoff run. You ain't on board this bandwagon yet, get up on board. We still got a little bit of room left. It's getting packed. It's getting crowded. But certainly you can see the national perspective on it ain't yet on board. They're still underselling us. They're still selling. Yeah, they're still gonna fall apart at some point or other. They ain't buying it. That's good. I like us underdog. I like that role. I like nobody count on us. I like it being all about, hey, nobody thinks we got a chance here. Let's go prove them out. We don't got any expectations on our back. You feel like the Rams are that back starting to creak a little bit under the weight of those expectations. Well, not us, baby. We're a year ahead of time. We're in Freebie City. So let's just let it rock. Let it all play out. No tightness whatsoever. Just go let it rip this next upcoming Saturday. Go get this win. Go get this number one bye. And let's go have that magnificent playoff run. I thank you for watching. Hit that like button. Please sub up. Beyond all else, don't you ever forget. Go Hawks.